Hey, welcome to Firescale Audiobooks. If you enjoy our audiobooks, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, feel free to share your review in the comments section below.
Chi-Ching was about to go crazy from anger. She struggled desperately in Su Guining's arms. "Let go of me and let me tear her face apart. I've never seen such a shameless woman. Does she think my chief family is a weakling? She's simply tired of living. If I don't treat her properly today, she won't know how to behave. Look at your current appearance. What's the difference between you and a shrew? I want you to mind your own business. If it wasn't for you pulling me, would I have ended up like this?" Chi-Ching struggled even more fiercely. "What are you daydreaming about? Let go of me." Su Guining hugged her and didn't say a word. He stared thoughtfully in the direction where Su He had left. "What are you doing? Are you attracted to her as well?" The thought of this made Chi-Ching even angrier. Su Guining answered seriously, "Not really, but what?" Chi-Ching asked nervously. After piquing a certain someone's appetite, Su Guining smiled like a cheating cat. "But every time I see her, I always feel that my heart is especially soft." "Soft?" Chi-Ching scoffed. "Since when did young Master Su become soft in the heart? Don't try to curry favor with soft. You don't fit this word. If word gets out, people will laugh themselves to death." "That may not be true." Su Guining hugged the delicate body in his arms tightly. His hot breath sprayed on her sensitive earlobes as he said in a low and seductive voice, "Now, this young master's heart is very soft." Chi-Ching suddenly felt guilty. The domineering aura from before disappeared completely. Her cheeks turned red, and she said in a panic, "I'm warning you, Su Guining, don't be a jerk to me. Otherwise, I won't let you off. Use whatever tricks you have." Chi-Ching looked at the sky speechlessly. She knew better than anyone else how thick-skinned this person was. She just didn't expect him to use this kind of shamelessness on her. "I'm your fiancé. If you dare to do anything to me, my father will not let you off when he comes back." Su Guining smiled even more happily and said matter-of-factly, "That's why I have to exercise my FINC's rights." "Su Guining, have you taken the wrong medicine?" Ever since she barged into Su Guining's room last morning, she realized that this kid was abnormal. Maybe, seeing his special assistant from afar, Su Guining decided to let her off for the time being. Che hasn't done anything yet, so you'd better behave yourself. Don't get into trouble again, okay? If you have nothing to do, learn more from your brother. He's definitely smarter than you." Since he was young, he had helped her clean up quite a bit of mess. After sending off Chi-Ching, who was unwilling to let him off, Su Guining lit a cigarette for himself and took a deep puff before waving at the special assistant in the distance. The special assistant quickly came forward to report, "I found out." Su Guining turned around. "Tell me, what's the relationship between them?" From a moment his grandfather made an exception to see Su He had felt that it was unusual. After spending so much effort and money, he did not believe that he would do something useless. The special assistant hesitated for a moment, then said in a strong voice, "Su He is the daughter of the eldest miss." "The eldest miss?" He did not realize who the eldest miss his subordinate mentioned was. "It's Su Chinga." Su Guining clenched his fists tightly. He did not even feel the burning cigarette between his fingers. The Su family's taboo, Su Chinga, was a name that grandfather never mentioned or allowed anyone to mention. It was actually Su Chinga's daughter. Wasn't that his own sister when he thought of the word sister? The rare softness in his heart became even more obvious. In his generation, the Su family did not have any girls, so he accepted Lung Fei Fei as his adopted daughter. He did not understand why grandfather did not want Su He and instead wanted Lung Fei Fei. Even if his aunt was in the wrong, Su He was innocent. How could his daughter of the Su family let others humiliate her like this? Su Guining, who had always been terrifyingly calm, lost control for the first time. Perhaps it was the feeling of being connected by blood, which made him angry for the first time. He was angry for Su He. Su Guining punched the pillar next to him hard, and a fierce look appeared in his eyes. Whether grandfather acknowledges it or not, I'm the first one to disagree that Fu Juanqing wants to marry Yi to Fu Mingyao's stepmother. Ache's mother-in-law. Young master. Su Guining cut him off immediately. Go and monitor the Fu family and Lung Fei Fei. If they dare to do anything, destroy them together with me. In Su Guining's heart, apart from the real Su family members, he didn't care about anything else. The special assistant immediately followed the order and left. Su Guining's lips curled into a sneer. Should he tell his father about tonight's banquet? After all, his father and his aunt had a good relationship. The relationship was the best. Thinking of his father's high blood pressure recently, he gave up on this idea. The banquet at the Chi family's old mansion that night was unprecedented. Everyone who came to attend was from a rich and influential family. There were people who could shake with just a stomp of their feet, and there were many celebrities in the business world who tried their best, but were still rejected. This kind of banquet was no longer something that could be attended just because they were rich. This was a banquet that belonged to the wealthy and influential. How could a group of people who controlled the rise and fall of others easily take people into their eyes? When Su Hehe followed Fu Jianxing into the venue, he felt the gazes of disdain, ridicule, and probing from all directions. His heart felt even more uncomfortable. I wonder if Ache will also look at me like this? The huge hall on the first floor was beautifully decorated. Due to his status, it was impossible for the Qi family's old master to attend such a banquet. However, Qi Che's father, Qi Zongxing, who had already reached the upper echelons, had finally returned. Su Hehe, who had seen Qi Zongxing many times through the television news, was standing in front of him at this moment. He was elegant and calm, carrying the awe of a superior, causing people to respect him from the bottom of their hearts. Zhou Huixiu and Qi Zongxing stood side by side. As they smiled elegantly, their gazes shot at Su Hehe like knives. From the looks of it, if they didn't have some scruples, they would definitely chase Su Hehe out. Opposite Qi Zongxing, Fu Jianxing smiled with a humble expression. Old leader. Qi Zongxing cut him off without a trace. You're already in-laws now. Don't treat me as an outsider. Fu Jianxing burst into laughter. What the in-laws say is right. It's my fault. The people surrounding Qi Zongxing matched his description. Someone looked at Su Hehe and said in surprise, "This person looks very familiar." At the mention of Su He, a trace of coldness flashed across Fu Jianxing's eyes. As long as it was impossible for Qi Che and Su He to be together after tonight's banquet, he could only marry Meng Yao. Seeing that his wish was fulfilled, how could he not be proud? You're Su Hehe? Qi Zongxing's pair of deep and sharp eyes that were as deep as the sea landed on Su Hehe, making her shudder. The reverence in her heart made her put away her original indifference and answered respectfully, "Yes." Qi Zongxing nodded slightly and looked at Su Hehe with a complicated gaze for a long time before saying, "I heard that you and Ache are classmates. There's a dance on the second floor. Go and gather with their juniors. Don't accompany U.S. old men." With just a few words, Su Hehe was actually sent away. Fu Jianxing thought about it and realized that this place was left for them old men. It was indeed not suitable for young people to follow. Even the most favored grandson of any family did not receive such treatment, so he could only nod. Tonight, Su Hehe was wearing a sapphire blue knee-length gown. The strapless design revealed a large patch of snow-white shoulders and a pair of slender legs. The entire gown accentuated her exquisite lines, making it impossible for people to take their eyes off her. On her chest was a top-grade pigeon blood ruby, which was even more dazzling. Su Hehe was already a rare, peerless beauty. Coupled with this outfit, as soon as she stepped onto the second floor, she immediately attracted countless gazes. The women were jealous, and the men wanted nothing more than to directly dismember her into their stomachs. This was what Qi Che saw when he held Fu Mengyao as they came down from the third floor. A strong, killing intent flashed through his deep eyes. "Miss, may I have the honor to ask you to dance again?" Gu Cheng was the first to jump out, bowing to Su Hehe elegantly. The killing intent in Qi Che's eyes intensified. Du Ju could not help but admire Gu Cheng's courage. "Amen," This kid is dead for sure. Even if Chi-Che did not want Su Hee, he would never allow other men to covet her, especially in front of him. Che! Fu Mingyao called out his name with a pale and uneasy face. Chi-Che turned his head in disgust and pulled out his arm, saying coldly, "If you're not feeling well, go upstairs and rest." I'm not. If you're not, then behave yourself." This was already a stern warning. Fu Mingyao's face was livid with anger, but she gritted her teeth and endured it. Facing the person who came to toast her, she tried her best to put on an elegant smile and wave her hand. Su Hee looked at the man who suddenly appeared and was a little dumbfounded. After a long while, he said, "I'm sorry, I don't know how to dance." "It's okay, I can teach you." Gu Cheng's eyes lit up. "Not interested. Then do you want to drink something?" Almost at first glance, Gu Cheng had already decided on the woman in front of him. He, young Master Gu, had seen countless women, but there had never been anyone who could make him lose his soul at first glance. Yes, after living for so long, this was the first time he had tasted what it meant to lose one's soul and lose one's mind. He was definitely going to have this woman. No need. She had a personality. He liked it. Gu Cheng smiled and narrowed his eyes. "My name is Gu Cheng. May I know your name, miss?" Su Hee rolled his eyes at him and turned away, ignoring him. He walked to the food section at the side, but Gu Cheng kept following him. In the end, she had no choice but to order him to leave with a cold face. "Mr. Gu, can you stay away from me? If you keep making me lose my appetite." After saying that, he didn't want to point at the exquisite Western dim sum in front of him. Ugh! Gu Cheng's confidence was completely destroyed. However, he was not someone who would give up easily. He had a way to deal with women. "May I help you?" A dignified and cold voice interrupted. Gu Cheng was shocked when he saw the person who suddenly appeared. Brother Su?" The smile on Su Guining's lips deepened. He stared at Su Hee and asked, "Is there anything I can help you with?" Su Hee's eyes fell on Gu Cheng, and he shook his head casually. "Hey!" Gu Cheng sighed in defeat. "Sorry to bother you. It was actually the person that Brother Su wanted to protect. He did not have the guts to get involved anymore." So he finally breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Su Guining was willing to help. She knew how arrogant these people were. Gu Cheng was still recuperating just now. If she met an unreasonable person, she really did not know how to end things thinking of this. She smiled bitterly and shook her head. She smiled gratefully at Su Guining and used the excuse of going to the washroom to get rid of the covetous gazes from the crowd. When the washroom was opened, a tall figure suddenly appeared inside. She jumped in fright and hurriedly pulled the door open. Unexpectedly, the person inside moved even faster. In almost an instant, he dragged her inside and neatly locked the door. Su Hee was shocked. The man's fiery arms hugged her tightly, wishing that he could squeeze her into his body. A familiar aura assaulted his face. Su Hee immediately calmed down, but his chest could not stop throbbing in pain. Suddenly, she was pushed away. Her delicate body crashed into the door like a broken leaf. With a loud bang, she slowly slid onto the cold marble floor. Su Hee held his head in pain. His vision turned black, and his lips were almost bitten to the point of bleeding. She knew that Ache hated her. She had long been mentally prepared before coming here, but when this moment really came, it was worse than death. Chi-Che's handsome face was gloomy, and his deep eyes were dyed scarlet, as if he was a devil from hell. Every inch closer, the more dangerous it became. The atmosphere was so oppressive that it was hard to breathe. "Su Hee, you're so capable. If you need a man, just look for me. Can an old man satisfy you?" A cold voice sounded in his ear. He hated her to the point of madness. His strong right hand was like steel, pinching her beautiful swan-like neck. As long as he was willing, her neck could be broken in his hand at any time. Su Hee's chest felt uncomfortable. His pale face began to turn blue due to the lack of oxygen. His chest hurt even more. She bit down hard on her lips. Dark red blood seeped out, using the pain to stimulate her consciousness that was about to faint. Su Hee had been lowering his head and not looking at him, which ignited the anger in Chi-Che's heart. His eyes narrowed dangerously, and his cold voice was bone-chilling. Su Hee, look at me. Why don't you dare to look at me? Are you feeling guilty? Do you feel guilty, even if you do it so openly? How does it feel to be my mother-in-law? The icy cold palm slowly slid across the delicate skin of her neck and finally landed on her sensitive chest. The extreme teasing caused waves of numbness. Looking at the black mark left on her neck, Chi-Che's pupils constricted. It must be extremely painful, right? However, she was actually willing to endure the intense pain rather than beg for mercy from him. Su Hee was really heartless. Su Hee's body trembled even more violently. A string of sparkling tears hung on his tightly shut eyelashes, but he stubbornly lowered his head and did not look at him. The more she acted like this, the more Chi-Che hated her. Chi-Che suddenly leaned into her ear, and his hot breath blew into her ear ambiguously. Tell me, if something happens between mother-in-law and son-in-law, wouldn't it be very interesting? Su Hee's entire body suddenly stiffened. Ache! She didn't want to see Ache like this. Suddenly, Chi-Che's kiss fell like a violent storm. It wasn't as gentle as usual, and it was violent and even cruel. Everywhere it passed, there were bruised hickeys. His lips seemed to contain magic, causing Su Hee's body to tremble like a fallen leaf in the autumn wind. His entire body was weak and powerless, and he wished he could cling tightly to his sturdy body. However, she couldn't. Su Hee warned himself countless times in his heart. His fingernails dug deep into his palm, and drops of bright red blood dripped onto the bright marble, splashing out bewitching flowers. Gradually, her gaze began to fade. Chi-Che finally suppressed the hatred in his heart and let go dejectedly. Like a slow-motion scene in a movie, he let go bit by bit, opening up the distance between them. His fiery eyes that were as hot as blood also gradually returned to clarity. Chi-Che's lips curled up into a mocking sneer. His smile was sorrowful and lonely. His distant voice seemed to come from the horizon. Su Hee, from now on, we are no longer related. His eyelashes that were as thick as a fan closed slightly, covering the last bit of emotion in Chi-Che's eyes. His tall and straight figure left without a trace of nostalgia, never looking at Su Hee again. The heavy footsteps faded into the distance. Su Hee could not help but hug his head and cry silently. Hot tears soaked his arms. She knew that Chi-Che did not love her anymore. When he turned around just now, he could not even be bothered to give her any more hatred. Ache had really let go. From now on, he would not love a woman called Su Hee anymore. He was no longer persistent, no longer affectionate. This was what she wanted to see, wasn't it? Why was she so afraid? So afraid? Her entire body was cold, so cold that she almost lost consciousness. Endless darkness surged from all directions. Her consciousness was faint, but she could clearly feel a warm flow from below her. Su Hee raised his eyelids with difficulty. A large amount of dark red blood under his body had almost dyed half of the bathroom. His heart was already numb from the pain, and despair overwhelmed him. Last time in the hospital, she had already been on the operating table. In the end, she stubbornly gave up on performing the surgery and aborted the child. Was she still going to leave her even after enduring until now? Su Hee could clearly feel that his body was slowly turning cold. Along with the loss of the child was her frail life. She who had been sentenced to death a long time ago had finally reached the end. She was finally free. Goodbye, mother. Before Su Hee fainted, a faint smile appeared on his lips. Then, he was completely surrounded by darkness. In the hotel, Lung Chinga, who was speaking fluent English with Professor Angus, was stunned. Her chest felt flustered for no reason. Professor Angus looked at her worriedly. Ms. Lung, what happened to you? Lung Chinga shook her head. I've made preparations 10 years ago, and I've been proven by many authorities that my heart is the most suitable. No matter what, please prepare for the surgery, Professor. Absolutely not. Professor Angus rejected her righteously. This is too crazy. It's something that has never happened in the history of medicine, let alone humanitarianism. Even he himself would not agree to it. Hearing this, Lung Chinga suddenly smiled. Her smile was gentle and charming. Her smile was peerless, proud and confident. Professor, I don't think you understand me. Stubbornness is inherited from me. I, Lung Chinga, will never change my decision, and I will never regret it. After saying that, she stared at Professor Angus and changed her previous serious look. Did you know? 20 years ago, I was kicked out of the family. Even if I ended up like this, I have never regretted it, let alone now. He is your beloved disciple. I think you must be suffering too. So please do the surgery. Professor Angus was stunned. He was deeply moved by the beautiful Oriental woman in front of him. He was shocked. He's personality was indeed too similar to hers. They were like a luminous body, so dazzling that people could not take their eyes off them. They were so mysterious that they were like a mystery. They attracted countless moths to the flame. Everyone was envious of their beautiful and dazzling scene, but they ignored that they were burning their lives. In the end, Professor Angus nodded heavily. He knew that he would be condemned by his conscience, but he still agreed. A handsome blond man sitting next to him saw him nod. A glimmer of light flashed in his eyes, and then it was replaced by darkness. The price for his junior was too high. He did not know if this silly girl could bear it. The dinner ended in a depressing atmosphere. Lung Chinga was absent-minded, and her right eyelid kept twitching. Finally, after sending Professor Angus and the others away, she got into the car that had been waiting for Juanhao at the door. Something must have happened to He. After a moment of silence, she raised her head and said in a trembling voice, "Turn around and go to the chief family's old mansion immediately." And Juanhao nodded and drove away quickly. Along the way, Lung Chinga made a lot of calls from Professor Angus, President Chung, and even her best friend, He Jihua, who hadn't contacted her for many years. The car braked in front of the chief family's main gate, and the ear-piercing sound cut through the quiet night sky. The dazzling lights illuminated the woman standing in front of the main gate. He Jihua was dressed in an elegant dress. Compared to his image in university, he looked more gentle and less forceful and capable. Lung Chinga got out of the car, kicked the main gate, and slammed the door crazily. He Jihua watched from the side with his mouth agape, unable to come back to his senses for a long time. From the moment she received Lung Chinga's call, she had been in a daze. Chinga was back. Su Chinga was back. His mind was filled with this voice. Is Su Chinga really you? After not seeing her for 20 years, she didn't look old at all. Lung Chinga, who was knocking on the door, turned her head suddenly. Her eyes were as sharp as knives. Su Chinga is long dead. The person standing in front of you is Lung Chinga. Gradually, her gaze began to fade. Chi-Che finally suppressed the hatred in his heart and let go dejectedly. Like a slow-motion scene in a movie, he let go bit by bit, opening up the distance between them. His fiery eyes that were as hot as blood also gradually returned to clarity. Chi-Che's lips curled up into a mocking sneer. His smile was sorrowful and lonely. His distant voice seemed to come from the horizon. Su-He, from now on, we are no longer related. His eyelashes that were as thick as a fan closed slightly, covering the last bit of emotion in Chi-Che's eyes. His tall and straight figure left without a trace of nostalgia, never looking at Su-He again. The heavy footsteps faded into the distance. Su-He could not help but hug his head and cry silently. Hot tears soaked his arms. She knew that Chi-Che did not love her anymore. When he turned around just now, he could not even be bothered to give her any more hatred. Ache had really let go. From now on, he would not love a woman called Su-He anymore. He was no longer persistent, no longer affectionate. This was what she wanted to see, wasn't it? Why was she so afraid? So afraid. Her entire body was cold, so cold that she almost lost consciousness. Endless darkness surged from all directions. Her consciousness was faint, but she could clearly feel a warm flow from below her. Su-He raised his eyelids with difficulty. A large amount of dark red blood under his body had almost dyed half of the bathroom. His heart was already numb from the pain, and despair overwhelmed him. Last time in the hospital, she had already been on the operating table. In the end, She stubbornly gave up on performing the surgery and aborted the child. Was she still going to leave her even after enduring until now? Suhee could clearly feel that his body was slowly turning cold. Along with the loss of the child was her frail life. She, who had been sentenced to death a long time ago, had finally reached the end. She was finally free. Goodbye, mother. Before Suhee fainted, a faint smile appeared on his lips. Then, he was completely surrounded by darkness. In the hotel, Lung Chinga, who was speaking fluent English with Professor Angus, was stunned. Her chest felt flustered for no reason. Professor Angus looked at her worriedly. Ms. Lung, what happened to you? Lung Chinga shook her head. I've made preparations 10 years ago, and I've been proven by many authorities that my heart is the most suitable. No matter what, please prepare for the surgery, Professor. Absolutely not. Professor Angus rejected her righteously. This is too crazy. It's something that has never happened in the history of medicine, let alone humanitarianism. Even he himself would not agree to it. Hearing this, Lung Chinga suddenly smiled. Her smile was gentle and charming. Her smile was peerless, proud and confident. Professor, I don't think you understand me. Stubbornness is inherited from me. Lung Chinga, will never change my decision, and I will never regret it. After saying that, she stared at Professor Angus and changed her previous serious look. Did you know? 20 years ago, I was kicked out of the family. Even if I ended up like this, I have never regretted it, let alone now. He is your beloved disciple. I think you must be suffering too, so please do the surgery. Professor Angus was stunned. He was deeply moved by the beautiful Oriental woman in front of him. He was shocked. He's personality was indeed too similar to hers. They were like a luminous body, so dazzling that people could not take their eyes off them. They were so mysterious that they were like a mystery. They attracted countless moths to the flame. Everyone was envious of their beautiful and dazzling scene, but they ignored that they were burning their lives. In the end, Professor Angus nodded heavily. He knew that he would be condemned by his conscience, but he still agreed. A handsome blond man sitting next to him saw him nod. A glimmer of light flashed in his eyes, and then it was replaced by a darkness. The price for his junior was too high. He did not know if this silly girl could bear it. The dinner ended in a depressing atmosphere. Lung Chinga was absent-minded, and her right eyelid kept twitching. Finally, after sending Professor Angus and the others away, she got into the car that had been waiting for Juinhao at the door. Something must have happened to he. After a moment of silence, she raised her head and said in a trembling voice, "Turn around and go to the Chi family's old mansion immediately." And Juinhao nodded and drove away quickly. Along the way, Lung Chinga made a lot of calls from Professor Angus, President Chung, and even her best friend, He Jihua, who hadn't contacted her for many years. The car braked in front of the Chi family's main gate, and the ear-piercing sound cut through the quiet night sky. The dazzling lights illuminated the woman standing in front of the main gate. He Jihua was dressed in an elegant dress. Compared to his image in university, he looked more gentle and less forceful and capable. Lung Chinga got out of the car, kicked the main gate, and slammed the door crazily. He Jihua watched from the side with his mouth agape, unable to come back to his senses for a long time. From the moment she received Lung Chinga's call, she had been in a daze. Chinga was back. Su Chinga was back. His mind was filled with this voice. Is Su Chinga really you? After not seeing her for 20 years, she didn't look old at all. Lung Chinga, who was knocking on the door, turned her head suddenly. Her eyes were as sharp as knives. Su Chinga is long dead. The person standing in front of you is Lung Chinga. Chinga, after not seeing her for 20 years, she was still stubborn. He Jihua sighed heavily and looked at Zhou Huaxiao, who was walking quickly from the fountain. He smiled bitterly. Fortunately, the banquet had ended. Otherwise, if Chinga suddenly appeared in front of everyone, who knew how many people would be shocked to death? Opening the door, Zhou Huaxiao's expression was very unsightly. In the middle of the night, there were only a few people in Beijing who dared to kick down the QI family's door. Who had the guts to do that? When she saw He Jihua standing in front of her, Her expression softened a little. When her gaze fell on Long Chinga, who was rushing towards the main door, she was so shocked that she took 3 steps back. She pointed at her with a trembling finger and said in astonishment, Su Chinga? Long Chinga stopped in her tracks and revealed a slightly sinister smile. Long time no see. Then, she rushed in like a gust of wind. Zhou Huaxiu patted her chest and frowned every day. When did she come back? What does she want to do? He Jihua shrugged. Just go up and take a look. I'll have to trouble you to make sure that you don't bump into the old man. Zhou Huaxiu pursed her lips and nodded with an unclear expression. She was secretly glad that everyone had left. Otherwise, with Su Chinga's ability back then, she would have definitely turned the world upside down. Lung Chinga and Injuan House searched every corner of the Qi family. They searched every place except for a few master bedrooms. Finally, they saw the person who had fainted on the ground in the bathroom on the 2nd floor. The dark red blood under her body had already coagulated. With her jet black hair, snow-white skin, and the glaring red, Lung Chinga was so angry that she almost fainted. And Juanhao's heart ached as he grabbed her. He took off his coat and wrapped it around Su He's chest. When he turned around, he walked toward Zhou Huaxiu and He Jihua. Lung Chinga was so angry that she hated them. Her most precious daughter had been ruined by these people. She pointed at Zhou Huaxiu's face and finally landed on Qi Zongxing's face, who had come out of nowhere and was standing behind the crowd. How you treat my daughter today, I will pay you back double in the future. Qi Zongxing, who was standing at the stairs, staggered and instantly aged by more than 10 years. His fiancée had abandoned him at all costs and left, but now she came back in such a situation. Su He was actually Chinga's daughter. His gaze fell on the dark red blood, and his face became even more gloomy and terrifying. Zhou Huaxiu panicked. Chinga, listen to me. We didn't know that Su He was your daughter. If I had known... Enough! Lung Chinga interrupted her fiercely. She closed her eyes tiredly and said to Injuan Hao, Let's go. He couldn't afford to be delayed. As Lung Chinga left, the surroundings fell into a deathly silence. Zhou Huaxiu's body trembled violently. Fortunately, He Jihua held her carefully at the side so that she wouldn't lose her graceful and elegant image. The younger generation did not know, but the older generation knew that Lung Chinga and Qi Zongxing had been engaged as children since they were young. Zhou Huaxiu was probably the last person who wanted to see Lung Chinga. Qi Zongxing waved his hand to signal the housekeeper to go back and rest. He Jihua also left quietly. Qi Zongxing came to Zhou Huaxiu and turned to look at her deeply. He sighed and said, Do what you want to do. You're already my wife. No one can change that. Zhou Huaxiu's gray eyes were suddenly filled with joy. She was so happy that she almost cried. Really, he had no choice but to marry her back then. She knew that in his heart, he loved his fiancée whom he said he had grown up with. Even after so many years had passed, she still felt uneasy. She was so afraid that Lung Chinga would suddenly come back and snatch him away that day. So when Lung Chinga stood in front of her, she was on the verge of breaking down. She would not allow the family that she had worked so hard to maintain to become fragmented. Yes, Qi Zongxing nodded. She had seen how much this family had sacrificed. The affection she had when she was young could not replace the affection she had now. It's very late. We still have work to do tomorrow. Rest early. You're not going to stop it? Zhou Huaxiu raised her head in surprise. If it was Su Chinga's daughter, with the Su family backing her up, it was more than enough to match the Qi family. The Xu family will not acknowledge Su He. Even if he let go of it now, the Su family's old master would not let it go either. Moreover, Su He fainted in the Qi family's washroom tonight and miscarried the child. Chinga would definitely not let this go. There was already no turning back. You are not allowed to reveal what happened tonight to anyone, especially Ah Che and Ah Xing. Qi Zongxing's voice unconsciously became harsher. That night in the hotel, Fu Mingyao's face was filled with impatience as she was picky. The things that were almost piled up in the presidential suite did not satisfy her at all. This wedding was rushed, as if it was specially made for some people to look at. Chi was even unwilling to take wedding photos, making Fu Mingyao extremely uncomfortable. Just be content. Don't dream of getting a man's heart again. Fu Juanxing walked in with his hands behind his back. His brows were tightly knitted together. Just now, Shenbing had searched everywhere, but still couldn't find Su Hehe. This made him have a bad premonition. He had a feeling that something was going to happen. Dad, Fu Mingyao lowered her head respectfully. Su Hehe, you didn't send anyone? Fu Juanxing asked directly after looking around and didn't find anything suspicious. You warned me. How would I dare to do anything at this juncture? She was also afraid that she would backfire. She wasn't in a hurry to deal with Su Hehe. Moreover, she was already very happy that her father had personally helped her to this extent. Although his father was strict, he also really doted on her. Otherwise, he would definitely not have any relations with Su Hehe. It's good that you know. After coming out of Fu Mingyao's room, Fu Juanxing instructed Shun Bing beside him. Search carefully for me. Pay close attention to Chinga's movements. Yes, the cardiothoracic surgery department of the Military Region General Hospital was brightly lit at this moment. The sound of footsteps came and went. Everyone had a serious expression on their faces. The doctor on duty of the hospital looked at these foreigners who had suddenly appeared with a surprised expression. He quickly put on his white coat to disinfect them. He wore a mask and checked the surgical instruments. He set up an anesthetic and an artificial heart-lung machine. His familiar movements, his dazzling speed, and his tacit cooperation caused many doctors on duty to immediately surround him. It was as if these people had suddenly descended from the sky. It was really too unbelievable. There was no medical team as good as this in all of Beijing. Is this the internationally renowned Y medical team? Those with sharp eyes immediately recognized it. However, the atmosphere was a little depressing. Those who were busy in the operating theater were so focused that they did not even bother to show a smile. The director of the cardiothoracic surgery department rushed over, followed by President Chung, who had specially rushed over. Old Chung, is there anything else you need to prepare? President Chung glanced at Professor Angus, who was standing in the operating theater with a head full of silver hair, and shook his head. They had been busy ever since they received Lung Chinga's phone call. Now, they were afraid that she would send them over. Ding! The crisp sound of the elevator rang. The ambulance was quickly pushed into the operating theater. The moment the door closed, Lung Chinga finally collapsed to the ground, exhausted. Lung Chinga fell to the ground. She hugged her knees with both hands and buried her face deep in her legs. The sound of her sobbing and breaking could be heard intermittently, and Juanhao's brows were almost twisted into a knot. He squatted in front of her with his heart aching. Chinga had never cried before. Even though she had encountered many difficulties, she had actually cried until her real name was hurt. It must be very difficult. He had congenital heart disease and severe heart failure. The possibility of her coming out alive from the operating room this time was very slim. It was hard to say, even if Professor Angus was the chief surgeon himself. Chinga, don't be like this, okay? And Juanhao hugged her frail shoulders with heartache. He wished that he could do all the pain for her. All of this is Hehe's wish. She has waited for this day for a long time. She is not in pain. Even when she is unconscious, she is still smiling. Lung Chinga clenched her fists tightly. It was because of the unconscious smile that made her feel even more uncomfortable. If she had been able to admit defeat and bow her head back then, he would not have suffered such tears. Do you know whose child he is? And Juanhao looked down at her with a pained expression and said softly, It's Fu Juanxing's, isn't it? Other than him, you wouldn't have given birth to a child for another man. Lung Chinga suddenly burst into laughter and burst into tears. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. Even you know it's Fu Juanxing's. Yet Fu Juanxing still believes that the child is another man's because of Wen Ling's scheme. Since he suspected her, he did not bother to explain. Moreover, they had been strangers ever since he and Wen Ling gave birth to Fu Mingyao. She would not have locked up a man with another woman, and he would not have locked up a father with another woman either. Chinga, calm down. And Juanhao hugged her tightly, afraid that Lung Chinga would disappear as soon as he let go of her. I won't let them go. I will make everyone regret it for the rest of their lives. Lungxing's eyes were bloodshot with a heart-wrenching fear. The heavy snow that fell on the morning of the 27th drifted from the morning until noon. At this moment, the melodious wedding march sounded from the private manor at the foot of Fragrant Hill. Chi stood upright in the snow in a black suit. The pure white snow fell on his clothes, hair, and eyelashes, making him look like a statue gazing into the distance, ancient and ancient. President, go in. The wedding is about to begin. Actually, what Du Ju wanted to say was that Su He wouldn't come no matter how long you waited. Chi closed his eyes slightly. His thick eyelashes were dyed with a layer of snow white. His straight back was tightly hugged from behind. His slightly trembling hands showed his master's excitement and carefulness. Chi sighed lightly. For the past 5 years, Meng Yao had been pampered by him. Although she had crossed his bottom line, she did not deserve to die. He was indeed a little heartless towards her. Che. Fu Meng Yao called his name carefully, afraid that she would be mercilessly pushed away by Chi in front of everyone. Chi turned around and hugged her in his arms. His perfect chin lightly touched the white veil on Fu Meng Yao's head, and his voice was as clear as a spring. After today, you'll be my Chi's wife. A seemingly calm sentence was actually a promise. Fu Meng Yao was so happy that she cried, and Du Ju couldn't help but be extremely excited. For the CEO to say this, it meant that he had really let go of that heartless woman, Su He, and was ready to open the knot in his heart. Chi Ching stood at the side and disdainfully glanced at Du Ju. He said sarcastically, "What are you so beautiful for? You don't understand Ache at all." Du Ju immediately flew into a rage. He had always claimed to know Chi the best, and this was simply looking down on his personal ability. How am I not understanding? Chi Ching raised her chin slightly and said with a distressed expression, Ache indeed doesn't love Su He anymore, but he won't fall in love with anyone else in the future. As she said this, her expression suddenly became agitated, and she even let out a low growl filled with cynicism. How can a dead heart love? Marrying Fu Meng Yao is only because of responsibility, because it doesn't matter. As long as that person isn't Su He, anyone can do it. Du Ju was stunned. His expression was so ugly that it looked like he had eaten a fly. He wanted to say something, but he couldn't. If that was the case, would he still be happy in the future? In the end, it's all Su He's fault. That heartless woman. I've never seen anyone more ruthless and scheming than her. Oh right, isn't she Fu Ming Yao's stepmother now? Why isn't she coming? Only when she's here will there be a good show to watch. Although Chi Ching's personality was strong, he was also forthright and generous. He never did anything to scold people behind their backs, especially women. Because she disdained to do so, no one dared to offend her. Usually, she would take revenge at that moment. However, at this moment, she wanted to greet all 18 generations of Su He's ancestors in her heart. If she didn't know Ache too well, she would have killed Su He out of consideration for Ache. Was this really the CEO's biological sister? Du Ju couldn't help but hold his forehead. Did she think that the scene wasn't chaotic enough, how Yinfei alone was enough to cause a ruckus? As soon as she entered the hotel, she was already making sarcastic remarks in the Ming dynasty. Her expression was as if someone owed her tens of millions. She actually wanted Su He to come too, please, let him off. Thinking of this, he only felt the dark clouds rolling in front of him. Even the cold wind couldn't block the killing intent that surged from all directions. Che, let's go, Ian. The guests are almost here. Fu Ming Yao leaned in Chi Che's arms like a little bird. The smile on her lips was both reserved and bright. One could see her current mood. It was because she was happy, and also because she had finally defeated Su He after so many years. This gave her a greater sense of achievement than anything else. At this moment, Butler Bai was standing behind Fu Ming Yao worriedly, helping her hold the bride's handbag. She was far less proud and happy than Fu Ming Yao. That was because when Ling had been defeated at the last moment, Lung Xingge had caused a huge ruckus at the wedding ceremony with Mr. Fu. In the end, they parted on bad terms, and the wedding ended because the groom had left at that moment as the daughter of a prestigious family, when Ling immediately became the laughingstock of the entire city. If it weren't for the fact that she couldn't bear the blow, she wouldn't have ended up in a mental hospital. Thinking of this, Butler Bai's knuckles, which were holding onto her handbag, turned white. Her eyes were filled with surging hatred. Back then, she couldn't protect Miss One, but today, she had to protect Meng Yao. No one could ruin her happiness. There's still one person who hasn't arrived. I have to personally welcome him. The people waiting outside were shocked. Chi Ching said with a foul expression, "Ah Che, don't wait anymore. Dad said that he has something on today and won't attend the wedding." After saying that, he didn't forget to glance at Fu Meng Yao. The groom's father wouldn't attend the wedding. Although the excuse was busy, even a blind person could see that it was definitely because he didn't agree. Fu Mingyao's smile froze on her face, but she concealed it very well. She lowered her head and said, "Father must be too busy. It's all right. Grandfather is already very grateful to be able to come personally." Chi Che's sword-like brows furrowed slightly. Previously, Father had raised both his hands in approval and even stood together with Grandfather to force him to marry Fu Mengyao. Why didn't he attend the wedding at the last moment? He glanced at Chi Ching with puzzlement. Chi Ching shrugged helplessly, indicating that she didn't know either. The confusion in Chi Che's eyes was even more obvious. His father never did anything without a reason. Thinking of the phone call this morning, his father's expression suddenly turned extremely cold and his mother's absent-minded look. It made him feel that something had happened that he didn't know about. Looking at Chi Che's expression, Chi Ching hurriedly tried to distance himself. "Ah Che, I really don't know anything. You can't put the blame on me in the future." Only the heavens knew how much Che held grudges. She was afraid of his ability to settle scores in the future. In fact, she was also very curious as to why her parents' attitudes had suddenly changed. Chi Che nodded. He could tell that she really didn't know anything. Suddenly, a few military cars drove over in a straight line and only stopped in front of Chi Che. Su Guining, dressed in a windbreaker, was the first to jump out of the car. "What took you so long?" Chi Ching couldn't help but complain. He had caused so many of them to wait outside. He really had a lot of face. Su Guining spread his hands. "I don't have that much face." After saying that, he walked to the other side of the car and personally opened the car door, supporting the old man inside to come out. "Grandpa Su," Chi Ching gasped in shock. Even Fu Mengyao and Du Ju, who were at the side, broke out in cold sweat. The Su family's old master, Su Qinghua, held an important position. Even the Qi family's old master had to call him Old Chief in front of him. He, who hadn't shown his face for many years, didn't expect to personally attend Chi Che's wedding. Chi Ching was even a little jealous. He reckoned that in the future, the old master might not even personally attend her and Su Guining's wedding. Old Master Su's expression was serious, and his calm face made him look like he had the killing intent of an army of gold. If Su Guining hadn't shamelessly pestered him for the first time since he was young, he definitely wouldn't have come. Chi Che took a step forward and slightly bowed. "Grandfather Su, it's my great honor to have you personally come. Please come in and rest." After saying that, he supported the other arm and carefully helped the old master inside. At this moment, the Manners Hall was already bustling with people. They gathered in groups of 2s and 3s to chat. Just as they were waiting for the ceremony to begin, when Chi Che and Su Guining appeared while supporting Old Master Su, everyone was so shocked that their jaws were about to fall off. Everyone present was an influential person and knew how rare it was to meet Old Master Su. They really didn't expect that they would personally come to attend a junior's wedding. Tang Yi and He Fifan were the first to jump out. They had been familiar with each other since they were young in the courtyard. They said with a cheeky smile, "Grandpa is so biased. He actually came to attend Ah Che's wedding." After saying that, they didn't forget to put on an aggrieved expression. Su Qinghua laughed out loud, which was rare. "Aren't you not married yet?" Tang Yi took advantage of the opportunity to make a request. "Then my grandpa must attend my wedding, as long as I can live until then." Grandpa will definitely live to be 100 years old. Tang Yi had been thick-skinned since he was young and knew how to use sweet words. Therefore, he was always happy with his grandpa. Every time he got into trouble and was beaten half to death by his grandpa, he would hide in the Su family to seek protection. Chi Ching, Su Guining, and he Fifan looked at Tang Yi with disdain. With one glance, they had never seen anyone more thick-skinned than him. Even if the Tang family's parents came, they wouldn't dare to make such a request to Grandfather Su. On the other hand, he didn't blush or pant. At this moment, the Chi family's grandfather was also being pushed over from his wheelchair. When he saw Grandfather Su respectfully call out to the old chief, everyone saw that the older generation wanted to speak, so they tactfully didn't disturb him. They hurriedly arranged for the most distinguished guest seats to be taken care of by the people around them. After the crowd dispersed, Chi Che and Su Guining stood side by side. Looking at the changing expressions of the crowd in the hall, Su Guining smiled smugly. Why did you go through so much trouble to bring Grandpa Su here? Chi Che was not going to be blinded by joy. Although everything would change after Grandpa Su personally appeared, he definitely did not think that things would be so simple. Su Guining supported his chin with his hand and said with an unfathomable expression, I always feel that things won't be so simple. If something interesting happens at your wedding, wouldn't it be a pity if Grandpa doesn't come? Chi Che's handsome face darkened a little. Su Guining's smile deepened, and he turned around to walk towards his good friend in the circle. The person in charge of the wedding planning company, who was waiting anxiously at the side, stamped his feet with a troubled expression. He wanted to go forward to urge Su Guining, but he didn't have the courage. Seeing that Su Guining had left, he hurriedly went forward to urge the groom to hurry up and prepare for the ceremony to begin. The priest who had been invited from St. Paul's Cathedral in Europe had been waiting for almost an hour. They couldn't delay any longer. Fu Mingyao also came forward with a blissful expression and pulled Chi Che to get ready to begin. President, Miss Fu, congratulations. Lung Yinfeng brought the Qi Corporation's executives and directors forward to congratulate him with a face full of joy. Chi Che nodded slightly. His expression couldn't help but make everyone feel uncertain, because every time there was a meeting, the president would have this expression, and usually they would be badly fucked. Yin Chuqing also came. Looking at Fu Mingyao, she was obviously in a bad mood. Last time, it was because she had no brain and couldn't blame others for being used. However, looking at Fu Mingyao's smug face, she couldn't help but say something sarcastic. I thought it would be Su Hehe who would become the female owner of our Qi group. I didn't expect that our number one daughter would have the last laugh. As an old classmate for many years, I'm very happy for you. The last few words sounded like she was gnashing her teeth. The executives and directors present were all shrewd people. When they saw that the situation was not good, it was the rhythm of a quarrel. They had to quickly get rid of it. Lung Yinfeng looked at Hao Lianfei with a worried expression. Ever since they boarded the plane, there had been something wrong with her. Now that even Yin Chuqing had made a move, he didn't believe that Hao Lianfei would remain silent. Therefore, he had to look after her well. It wouldn't do anyone any good to anger Chi Che. Chuqing was ready to be exiled to Southeast Asia. He didn't want Hao Lianfei to go to Africa to become a public relations director. Fu Mingyao raised her chin and said arrogantly, Yin Chuqing, if you're here to give me your blessings, I'll welcome you with both hands. If you dare to cause trouble, I can send someone to throw you out right now. You! Yin Chuqing was so angry that her cheeks flushed red. She glared at her and said coldly, What? Can't wait to make a move on U.S. old classmates now? You're not the mistress of the Qi Corporation yet. As for whether you'll be able to sit still in the future, I don't know yet. I'll wait to see what happens to you. Yin Chuqing, don't go too far. I've already taken care of you because you're an old classmate. I know you've always liked Che, but now Che is already my husband. Ching, don't be so shameless and covet someone else's man. Her righteous voice deliberately raised a few notches. It caused the people who had been paying attention to this side to look at Yin Chuqing in surprise. All sorts of disdain and sarcasm fell on her. Yin Chuqing took 2 steps back and sneered. She liked Chi Che. She had always liked him since university. Back then, She had also lost to Su He as the school bell. Today, she lost to Fu Mingyao again. How could she swallow this even if she was sent to Southeast Asia in the future? She would not let Fu Mingyao have it easy. As long as Su He is around, you'll not be happy. Unless Su He dies that day, she will be your nightmare for the rest of your life. Yin Chuqing's words made everyone's expression change. Chi Che's eyes were dark. No one could see the true thoughts in his heart. Fu Mingyao gritted her teeth, and her eyes were cold. She swore in her heart that since it was a nightmare, she would remove it with her own hands. Hao Lianfei staggered. Fortunately, Leng Yanfeng was quick enough to catch her. During this period of time, she had obviously become paler and thinner. Leng Yanfeng hugged her with a heartache and was unwilling to let go. During this period of time, he had thought a lot and recalled many things from the past. He claimed to be a womanizer and was full of love. When he suddenly looked back, he realized that he had always liked Hao Lianfei. Although he realized it a little late, he was very happy. At least he still had a chance. Hao Lianfei pushed him away stiffly with a cold expression, causing his hand to suddenly freeze in midair. He was so embarrassed that he didn't know whether to keep it or let it go. Someone, send Miss Yin out. Chi Che ordered impatiently. Duju took someone with a sympathetic expression and took a step forward to make an inviting gesture. He was really too reckless. Regardless of whether the CEO's wedding was good or not, he would not allow anyone to disrupt it. If she were to make Fu Mingyao look bad now, it was indirectly making the CEO look bad. Yin Chuqing was stunned. She did not expect Chi Che to really throw her out. She originally thought that Chi Che would settle the score with her and transfer her to Southeast Asia. She did not expect that he would mercilessly kick her out on the spot. If she was kicked out today, how would she have the face to continue living in the Chi Corporation in the future? Chi Che, you're so ruthless, so Fu Mingyao is so important in your heart. Yin Chuqing shook her head nonstop. Her crystal-clear tears stained her thick eyelashes. The despair and sadness in her eyes made people unable to look straight at her. Hao Yinfei, who had been silent the entire time, turned her head away bitterly. Her relationship with Yin Chuqing had never been good, but at this moment, she couldn't help but feel sad for her. Back then, the prideful belle of university had fallen in love with Chi Che, and in the end, she ended up like this. Women couldn't lose themselves at any time. Blind love would only blind people. Some men were destined to never get in their lifetime. Chi Che for Yin Chuqing, Leng Yanfeng for Hao Yinfei. Being stubborn would only end up with a sad and dispirited end. Fortunately, she woke up early, but it was a pity for Yin Chuqing. She was actually not bad. Yin Chuqing's big tears rolled down her eyes. Under the stunned and strange gazes of the people around her, she left in loneliness. Hao Yinfei secretly sighed. Maybe this was a good thing. At least Yin Chuqing would completely give up in the future. Fu Mingyao smiled even more proudly. She was happy that she finally enjoyed the treatment of the Qi family's mistress. If it were in the past, Chi Che would never chase Yin Chuqing out to protect her. Che, thank you. She coquettishly leaned against Chi Che. You've done so much for me. I'm really touched. The wedding is about to begin. Go and make preparations. Don't let everyone wait for too long. Chi Che's voice didn't sound happy or angry. Fu Mingyao smiled and nodded. The instant she turned around, she secretly gave Butler by a look. Her father didn't want her to touch Su He now, so she could at least cripple Yin Chuqing to vent her anger. This slut wanted to fight with her, but she didn't even know how she died. After receiving instructions, Butler Bai smiled coldly at Yin Chuqing's back. He quickly dialed a number and ordered in a low voice, "Capture the woman who just left the venue and serve her well." Ian laughter came from the phone and said in a dirty voice, "Aunt Bai, don't worry. I've always taken pity on beautiful women. I'll make her scream in pleasure, huh?" Butler Bai hung up the phone in disgust. The woman's scream could be vaguely heard at the end of the call, and a satisfied smile couldn't help but appear on his face. "Wait," Hao Yinfei, who had been silent all this time, suddenly said. Fu Mingyao turned her head in anger. Did all these people choose to go against her at this time, one or two of them came to ruin things. Chi Ching crossed his arms over his chest and stood at the railing on the second floor, looking down at what was happening below with great interest. When he saw Fu Mingyao's expression, he smiled very smugly. How bad do you think Fu Mingyao's popularity is? She actually lets so many people take such a big risk to make things difficult for her. Do you want me to prepare some peanut seeds for you? The deep baritone sounded sarcastic. However, Miss Chi, who was too engrossed in it, couldn't tell at all. She answered seriously, "No, thank you, but you can have 2 bags of potato chips." Su Guining sneered. "How much does Chi Che hate you? Are you so eager to see his good show?" With such a fiancée, he couldn't help but worry for himself in the future. Chi Ching turned his head to face him and said, "Do you know why I especially like to attend other people's weddings since I was a child? Because every wedding is a wonderful performance, and the actors work hard for the masses. The grudges between rich families, breaking up a couple, getting a mistress, getting revenge from the main family, all sorts of schemes, and none of them are repeated. It's absolutely wonderful." This was the greatest hobby of the female Special Forces officers, and could also be called a perverted hobby. Su Guining's eyes darkened. This was their sorrow. Being born into a rich family meant that they should shoulder this kind of responsibility and obligation, and they couldn't shirk it. "What is it?" Chi Che didn't even turn his head. His voice was so indifferent that no emotion could be heard. Du Ju and Lung Yunfeng secretly felt that something was wrong. The president was completely furious. "Fei Fei, what are you doing? Don't waste the president's time on the big day." Lung Yunfeng hurriedly tried to smooth things over, however, Hao Yinfei didn't fall for it. She broke free from Lung Yunfeng's grip and tugged at Chi Che's clothes. "Chi Che, I beg you not to get married, okay? I beg you, okay?" Lung Yunfeng's face was livid, and his lips were pale. He looked at her in disbelief. Could it be that Fei Fei had never been him, but Chi Che this? This was impossible. "Tell me your reason." Chi Che turned his head suddenly, his eyes as dark as if they were about to devour someone. With Hao Yinfei's relationship with Su Hehe, she would not say this for no reason. Hao Yinfei bit her lip. Her delicate lips were almost bleeding from her bite. She wished she could immediately tell Hehe that Hehe was seriously ill, but the image of Hehe forcing her to swear kept appearing in her mind. He used her own life to force her to swear. She could disregard her oath, but she could not disregard Hehe's life. The two voices kept fighting and clamoring, causing her to pull her hair in pain. Chi Che suddenly grabbed her shoulder in excitement. His originally ice-cold expression was replaced by madness and faint anticipation. "What exactly is the reason? Tell me." Hao Yinfei shook her head in panic. I don't know how to say it. No, I can't say it." Suddenly, she raised her head, she grabbed Chi Che's suit and begged, "CEO, don't marry Fu Mingyao, okay? Otherwise, you'll definitely regret it. You'll really regret it." Chi Che's expression gradually turned cold, and his eyes were as cold as ice. In the end, he mercilessly pushed away Hao Lianfei's hand. "If Su Hehe asked you to say this, I advise you to take care of yourself." He hoped that Su Hehe had some unspeakable reason, but he didn't expect it to be such an unreasonable request and threat. "Su Hehe, you disappoint me too much." No. Hao Yinfei wanted to go forward, but she was blocked by Fu Mingyao. Because of her pregnant status, Du Ju and Lung Yunfeng stood in the middle while the other tightly held on to Hao Yinfei. "Hao Yinfei, you're really stupid." Fu Mingyao snorted in disdain and left with Chi Che. How dare she ruin Fu Mingyao's good thing? Was she really too shameless as the first daughter, stepping on her head 1 or 2 times? Seeing Chi Che go far away, Hao Lianfei felt as if all her strength was taken away in an instant. Min Gran fell to the ground and ignored the curious and disdainful eyes around her. She kept mumbling to herself, "You'll regret it. You will definitely regret it." Du Ju did not help her up. Instead, he squatted in front of her and asked with a puzzled expression, "Why will I regret it?" Hao Lianfei looked into the distance in a daze. It took her a long time to find the focus. She gritted her teeth and said, He is dying. He is only doing this because she is dying. She doesn't want Chi-Che to be sad after she dies. She told Du-Ju that she did not tell Chi-Che because she did not go against her oath. What nonsense are you saying? Lung Yinfeng was the first to jump out to refute her. He looked at Hao Lianfei like she was a lunatic. Qi Qing, who had been watching the show upstairs, jumped down from the railing of the second floor with a neat backflip. He landed steadily in front of Hao Lianfei and looked her in the eye. His eyes narrowed dangerously. She liked to watch the show, so she could allow these people to scheme against each other. They all had their own thoughts, but she would never allow them to be vicious and have no limits. Hao Yinfei actually used such an unreliable lie to ruin AHC Chi's wedding. Although her methods were a bit despicable and seemed a bit ridiculous, she knew better than anyone that this was Ah-Che's weak spot. Even if she hated Su He to death, he would still personally go and take a look. Hao Yinfei knew how to treat the symptoms. I know you and Su He are good friends, but for such a person, I don't know if you will ruin the rest of your life. The threat in her words was very obvious. As long as Qi Qing, said a word, she could ruin the rest of Hao Lianfei's life. P.S. Thanks Soekai for the monthly ticket. Thank you for the gift. Igu did not say any words of thanks. Everything was in his heart and in action. I'm sorry, she drank too much. Don't listen to her nonsense. Lung Yinfeng hurriedly blocked Hao Lianfei behind him. Qi Qing laughed at himself. She had better drink too much. Otherwise, I won't let her off easily. His good impression of Hao Lianfei instantly disappeared. Let go of me. I'm not talking nonsense. Hao Lianfei struggled emotionally behind Lung Yinfeng, but she wasn't as strong as him. Her face was red and her neck was thick, but she couldn't break free from his grip. In the end, she was so anxious that her mind went blank. She simply thickened her skin and shouted at Chi-Che, Chi-Che, if you don't believe me, you will regret it. You will definitely regret it. The scene instantly fell into a strange silence. She had attended so many weddings, but she had never seen such a wonderful scene. Each and every one of them made an appearance. Each and every one of them was more powerful than the last. Each and every one of them was thicker than the last. Just how many feelings did this young master Chiyo? The tall figure that was about to enter the church suddenly froze. Fu Mingyao nervously grabbed Chi-Che's sleeve and refused to let go. If Chi-Che left because of Hao Lianfei's words today, Fu Mingyao would become the biggest joke in the circle of aristocrats. If that happened, she would definitely suffer a fate worse than death. Chi-Che's deep eyes looked at the tall dome of the church in front of him. The gorgeous Western mythological paintings emitted a warm glow under the illumination of the lights, causing his originally ink-colored eyes to be dyed with a layer of crimson. Perhaps it was because he was thinking of the past. Where was the woman he loved the most? The crimson color was so enchanting that it made those who had entered the church's hall unable to avert their eyes. To them, Chi-Che was a stranger. They had never seen him before or even imagined him. Chi-Che didn't turn around. He started walking again. Every step he took with his long legs was like a red carpet. He didn't need to think about the choice of turning back or moving forward. Every time he thought about Su He's appearance when he went to the hospital to abort the child, his cold and unfamiliar appearance when he was in the Chi family's bathroom made him feel so much pain that he almost went crazy. No matter what method he used to numb himself, he couldn't hide it. Even a cold and heartless man had a weak side. He was unwilling to admit it, but he had to face it. Su He was very powerful and knew where his weak side was and where he should ruthlessly stab it. As long as he took a step forward, Chi-Che, would no longer have a weak side. He would have a weak side and become a completely cold and heartless man. Zhou Huaxiu slowly stood up from the front seat and nervously glared at Chi-Che, who stood unmoving at the door. Her heart was raised high and her clenched hands were pale. He was her son. As a mother, she knew the pain in Ah-Che's heart. However, he could not turn back now. If he did, Fu Mingyao would become a laughingstock. The Chi family could not afford to lose face. Su Chinga had once occupied her husband's love. Now, she would never allow her son to be destroyed by Su Chinga's daughter. Fu Juanxing pursed his thin lips, and the anger in his eyes surged. Perhaps he should not have been soft-hearted and let Suhi leave. If he had known earlier, he would have tied Suhi up and brought him to attend the wedding. Although it was a little cruel, at least it wouldn't cause the Fu Corporation to lose face. Even if Chi Che ultimately chose Meng Yao, he had at least wavered. Just this alone was enough to cause trouble for someone with a heart. He Fifen's expression was unreadable as he unconsciously twirled the ring on his left middle finger. He Jihua, who was standing at the side, saw clearly that his nephew would only unconsciously do this under extremely tense circumstances. But why was he nervous? The ones who should be nervous should be Fu Juanxing and Fu Mengyao. Right? Perhaps he was nervous that Chi Che would turn his head. Did he not wish for Chi Che to turn his head? At this moment, whether it was the people in the church or the people in the hall outside the church, all of them were staring at Chi Che, especially old Master Chi. His expression was so ugly that he almost had a heart attack. He was so anxious that the medical staff at the side scratched their ears and cheeks. Finally, heavy footsteps landed on the soft red carpet, and a muffled sound was heard. Everyone secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Chi Che's choice was to move forward. It was a wedding, and not Su He. Tang Yi narrowed his eyes slightly. No matter how hard he tried, he could not step into the entrance. Ache had finally given up on He this time. Why didn't he feel happy at all as a theoretical love rival? Tang Yi made wild guesses in his heart. Could it be that Fu Juanxing was more difficult to deal with? It was just an old man. He didn't believe that he couldn't deal with him with young Master Tang's charm. Hao Yinfei staggered backward. It was like a game. She had used all her strength and risked everything just to help he obtain the last glimmer of hope. Perhaps it was the hope of seeing her last time, but she had failed miserably. Chi Qing's worried heart finally relaxed. He glared at Hao Yinfei angrily. His face was livid with anger. Some people would be a little delusional if you gave them a chance. They didn't know what was good for them. He took a few steps forward and grabbed Hao Yinfei by her collar. His slender arms gradually exerted force and lifted her up high. With her feet off the ground, Hao Yinfei struggled in the air. Her face gradually turned from white to red, from red to green, and her neck, which was tightly held by her collar, left a glaring red mark. Hao Yinfei closed her eyes in despair, and a crystal tear fell from the corner of her eye. The burning sensation in her lungs made her so painful that she couldn't say a word. She only felt her ears quieten down, and the world before her eyes turned white. A slender figure wearing an elegant dress slowly walked over. Her long, black, curly hair fell over her shoulders, and she was as beautiful as an elf who had fallen into the mortal world. This was the gift she had given to He on his 18th birthday. It was the most luxurious evening gown in the Chanel Classic Retrospective Series. Hao Yinfei called out loudly to the person in front of her, but no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't get a response. She was instantly extremely anxious. Fei, please don't be sad. You must be happy. The elf-like girl smiled faintly. She was both unfamiliar and familiar. Hao Yinfei felt as if she had fallen into an ice cellar. She reached out her trembling hand to grab the corner of Su He's skirt, but no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't reach it. In the end, she just opened her eyes and disappeared. Her best friend, her only friend, they experienced youth, laughter, tears, and confusion together. Were they going to leave tragically just like that? Bang! A dull, loud sound shocked the entire hall. Hao Yinfei was ruthlessly thrown to the ground by Chi Qing. Some people who were passing by the church couldn't help but stop in their tracks with looks of disdain. The intense pain woke Hao Yinfei up. She looked at the crowd in a daze until a worried, handsome face kept swaying in front of her eyes. Why are you so stupid? Tang Yi rolled his eyes and picked her up. The warm embrace made her eyes even more sour. Looking at Lung Yinfeng, who was standing beside Chi Qing at a loss, but didn't move, she buried her face into Tang Yi's arms. Silent tears wetted his shirt. This was the man that she, Hao Yinfei, had been infatuated with for many years. She, Hao Yinfei, was really blind to fall in love with a man like Lung Yinfeng. I don't want to see you again. Butler, send the guest out. Chi-Ching clapped her hands in disgust. Miss, please. The old butler, with a serious expression, made an inviting gesture to Hao Yinfei. Even if he was driving her out, he had to pay attention to the noble butler's manners at all times. Butler uncle, are you driving her out? A gentle and charming voice suddenly sounded. The old butler turned pale with fright and looked at the person in front of him in astonishment. He had been a butler in the Chi family for 30 years and had seen her enter and leave the Chi family countless times. He was very familiar with her. Chi-Ching narrowed her eyes dangerously and took a few steps forward. Her many years of experience in fighting enemies told her that her opponent this time was not simple. She definitely did not come with good intentions. May I ask who you are? Chi-Ching crossed her arms and sized up the woman in front of her. She was mature, charming, and flirtatious. If she had seen such a beauty once, she would definitely not forget it. She gently took off her sunglasses, and the smile on Lung Chinga's lips was bone-chilling. Su Chinga. After 20 years, when she said the name of that year again, Lung Chinga's heart was as calm as a lake of stagnant water, and there were no more ripples. Su Chinga. Chi-Ching could not believe it. For the first time in her life, she was absolutely sure that she had met an opponent. The most legendary and rebellious woman in this circle, whom she had idolized countless times, had disappeared for more than 20 years and suddenly returned. Chi-Ching felt that the world had suddenly become mysterious. What are you doing here? What do you think? Lung Chinga knocked on the folder in her hand, then waved her hand to push away the stunned old butler and walked toward the church. Listening to the wedding procession coming from the church, Chi-Ching could not remain calm. What if she came to ruin the wedding today? Her mother had given her the task of guarding the position outside the door and not allowing anyone to go in and ruin the wedding. Miss, the old butler stopped her. Which one of you is the evil god? You can't afford to mess with him. Whoever you mess with will be in trouble. The old butler had followed the Chi family's old master all those years ago. He had seen all kinds of storms and waves. Even he had said that Lung Chinga was the evil god, so she was definitely the evil god. Chi-Ching slowly lowered her footsteps. It was better for her to stay away from the limelight for the time being. Hao Yinfei, who was held in Tang Yi's arms, also regained her cool. She let go of Tang Yi's arms and smiled at him. She was clear and charming. Do you know who she is? Who is she? Tang Yi asked in confusion. Chi-Ching said disdainfully, Didn't I say it just now? Su Chinga, the real eldest daughter of the Su family, Su Guining's biological brother. She used the word real to mock Lung Feifei, the adopted daughter of the Su family. However, always liked to flaunt her power, trying to compare herself with her in everything. Hao Yinfei shook her head. No, I really don't know that she has such an illustrious background. What I know is that she is He's mother, her biological mother. At this time, the sudden arrival of the Annie made her bad premonition even stronger. Thinking of the illusion in front of her, she immediately took a few steps forward and followed closely behind Lung Chinga. Boom! This was none other than a heavy bomb that made the few of them dizzy. Even Su Guining, who had been watching the show in the second company, couldn't help but jump down, his whole body exuding a cold and oppressive aura. Su He was indeed his sister. His grandfather was inside. What would his expression be like when he saw his aunt, whom he hadn't seen for more than 20 years, suddenly appear? P.S. Thank you for the tip from Fanboy. With everyone's support, I will definitely work hard to update it. I promise not to abandon the pit. The church attached to the manor was known as St. Paul of the East. It was almost a miniature version of St. Paul's Cathedral. It was gorgeous and sacred. Even the priest on the stage was specially invited by Zhou Huaxiu from St. Paul's Cathedral in Europe. The sacred wedding march flowed out from the white piano. Everyone present stood up and applauded like thunder. Some of the female guests looked at Fu Mingyao with envy. From then on, the most perfect diamond bachelor was gone. It was really a loss for their female compatriots. Fu Mingyao leaned on Chi-Chei's arm with a blissful expression. Her left hand carefully protected her slightly bulging belly, enjoying the envious gazes from all directions. The heavy door was pulled open from the outside. Lung Chinga, dressed in tight black clothes, quickly walked over and blocked in front of Chi Che and Fu Mengyao. Chinga, Chinga, eldest miss. Countless gasps sounded at the scene. Some people even stood up in shock. Even the Chi family's old patriarch stood up shakily with Zhou Huaishio's help. A trace of surprise flashed through his pair of muddy old eyes. Suhi is Su Chinga's daughter? Yes. Zhou Huaishio's body trembled nonstop. It was unknown whether she was angry or frightened. Why didn't you say it earlier? The Chi family's old patriarch's voice carried a stern rebuke. Say it earlier? The Chi family's old patriarch Meng ran interrupted. If you said it earlier, would we still make such a stupid mistake? Even if the Su family doesn't forgive Su Chinga, they won't deny Su He's existence. It's fine if she doesn't hold a grudge, but if she remembers it, there will be trouble in the future. Besides, wasn't the reason he decided to make Lung Feifei his fiancée for Ache because of the Su family's relationship? If he could marry the real miss of the Su family, wouldn't that be even better? Father, I was wrong. We only just found out about it. Zhou Huaishio lowered her head in grievance and said softly. Old man Qi sighed in disappointment and turned his gaze to Lung Chinga and Chi Che on the stage. Looking at the imposing Chi Che on the stage, he nodded in relief. Auntie, Chi Che frowned in surprise and looked at the crowd that instantly quieted down in confusion. Each of their faces carried a look of shock that could not be ignored. Chi Che's deep eyes suddenly became abnormally bright. You're Su Chinga? Lung Chinga nodded. Very good. You can still call me Auntie. This proves that he did not love the wrong person. This gift is for you. I think you'll definitely be grateful to me, your mother-in-law, countless times in the future. Lung Chinga smiled in satisfaction. Her eyes were sparkling and incomparably beautiful. She was the focus of everyone's attention at all times. She took out a VIP gold card from her carry-on bag and stuffed it into Chi Che's suit pocket. So what? Chi Che didn't even look at the gold card that she stuffed into his pocket. He curled his lips indifferently, and his gaze slowly turned cold. Nothing much. At least he's stronger than Fu Junqing back then. Don't mention him to me. Chi Che's face was livid. I can't guarantee that I won't kill him. Only the heavens knew that he wished he could throw Fu Junqing into the sea and feed him to the fish. Wow. Oh my God. One after another, screams almost drowned the entire church. No one expected Chi Che to say such words in front of everyone. There were many people who didn't have a good relationship with their in-laws. Everyone knew in private that no matter how ruthless his methods were, at least he was able to live with it on the surface. He was the first person who dared to say it out in the open. Awesome strong. Fu Mingyao's face lost all color. She glared at Lung Chinga with hatred and screamed, "What are you doing here? Ruining the wedding." She did not want to wait for He to wake up and find that Fu Mingyao had already given birth. This was too cheap. You be asterisk TCH, why don't you go die? Fu Mingyao was filled with hatred. Her beautiful face was slightly distorted, and her eyes were filled with hatred. This kind of hatred was emitted from her bones. Even though she usually hid it well, it finally erupted because Lung Chinga came to ruin the wedding. When she was young, the first time she was beaten was because she broke into Lung Chinga's villa and humiliated her. Fu Junqing was so angry that he kicked her down the stairs. If it weren't for Lung Chinga, her mother wouldn't have been living in the mental hospital. Lung Chinga was the devil, stealing her mother's happiness and taking away her love. Even Su He, the illegitimate daughter of the Fu family, had been enjoying everything. If it weren't for her father protecting Lung Chinga, she would have died countless times. What nonsense are you spouting? Fu Junqing's furious voice suddenly rang out. Even though Chi Che had asked him to die, he was not angry. However, he could not hear anyone say the word die to Lung Chinga. Su Qinghua was so angry that the crutch in his hand fiercely hit the armrest of the chair. It was simply a disgrace to the Su family. Grandfather, please calm down. Su Guining was so frightened that he hurriedly patted his back. He had never seen his grandfather so angry since he was young. Everyone present was smart. How could they not know the relationship between Lung Chinga and the Su family? Now that they saw the Su family's old master so angry, they all looked at him with a look of anticipation. It was so King worth it to attend this wedding. Not to mention that the chief family did not accept any money. Even if everyone offered hundreds of thousands, it was still worth it. It was worth the vote. When Suchinga roamed the 4 or 9 cities back then, even if the heavenly king came, he would still give way. The Su family's old master's protective personality was absolutely infuriating. As the only girl in the Su family, Suchinga was raised in everyone's hands, even if she was chased out of the Su family later. The things in her bones would not change. Even the other heads of the wealthy families did not dare to insult her. Lung Chinga glared at Fu Mingyao with her cold eyes. She hated her, but how could she not hate her? However, Lung Chinga did not see her as an opponent, even when Ling was not worthy of her, let alone Fu Mingyao. Fu Mingyao's heart trembled, and she took a step back unconsciously. The confidence and strength of the first daughter was completely destroyed by Lung Chinga's powerful aura. She hated the cowardice and fear that rose in her heart. If when Ling comes out of the mental hospital, you can ask her to come find me. Lung Chinga was the biggest opponent in her life, and it would be interesting to meet her before she died. Chinga. Hijihua came forward worriedly and whispered, "Uncle Su is here. Why don't you go and meet him?" Back then, the relationship between father and daughter was so tense. Hijihua sincerely hoped that Chinga would be relieved when she came back. After all, so many years had passed. Even if there was a great hatred, it should be dispelled. Lung Chinga was not pretentious. She turned around, and the white-haired old man was sitting on the chair boldly. His originally straight back began to slightly hunch. Lung Chinga's eyes were wet. Her father was old and looked like he did in her dream. His eyes were drooping weakly. Only she knew how terrifying his eyes were. She did not regret her rebellion back then. In order to enter the entertainment industry, she did it for Fu Juanxing, whom her family disapproved of. Even if she was chased out of the family in the end, she did not regret it, let alone hold a grudge against him. She had brought this upon herself. She owed the Su family, and she had made an oath to never return to the Su family for the rest of her life. Therefore, even though she was imprisoned, she remained calm. However, when she found out that he had once knelt in front of her father and begged bitterly, she was angry for the first time. She had vowed right after he was born that she would definitely make he a prominent figure in her life and become her most honorable little princess. She would not allow her precious daughter, whom she loved to the bone, to be bullied at will by anyone. The waves of anger almost drowned her. She lost her rationality and rushed out of the Sunset Lake. In the end, she was stopped by Fu Juanxing, who had rushed over in a hurry. At that moment, when she saw Fu Juanxing, her entire body turned cold. She did not blame anyone for her entire life. However, she would definitely make everyone pay double for those who owed he. Father, long time no see. Lung Chinga kneeled in front of Su Qinghua. The sound of her knees colliding with the marble floor was muffled and loud, hitting everyone's heart in an instant. Whether it was the Su family, the He family, the Tang family, or the Qi family, all of them were shocked by what they saw. Chi Che pursed his lips tightly and waved at Du Ju. "Go and investigate for me. Even if we have to turn the entire city upside down, we have to find out how Su He is doing now." Thinking of how Lin Fei's words just now, it suddenly made his heart skip a beat. Yes, Du Ju left in a hurry. Lung Chinga's kneeling startled Fu Juanxing's body staggered, and he slumped on the chair behind him, his face ashen. When he first met Chinga, she was just a small celebrity living alone in a simple rented apartment outside. She laughed so heartily every day. Later, the two of them fell in love, and she once said to him with confidence, "Fu Juanxing, do you know that I have completely cut off all ties with my family for you?" At that time, he actually disdained her in his heart. What was there to miss about a poor and lowly family? Fu Juanxing, would definitely give her the best. Even if it was the stars in the sky, he would definitely help her take them down. He did not expect Chinga to give up on the Su family. The Su family, the most illustrious Su family. The woman he loved gave up everything for him. And what kind of a bastard did he do to her even if she betrayed him? So what if she gave birth to Su He? She had also given up all her fame and power for him. And that was enough. How many people could do that? Fu Juanxing punched the armrest of the chair heavily. In an instant, bright red blood flowed out from between his fingers, dyeing the white cushion red. It was a shocking sight. Father, long time no see. How are you? Lung Chinga asked in a gentle voice. Su Qinghua looked at her coldly, not saying a word. Lung Chinga chuckled. Father was still unwilling to forgive her. She had never knelt before when she was chased out of the family. Now, in front of so many people, she knelt down, but Father was still unwilling to forgive her. Why was he so stubborn? Why didn't he cherish the people who were still alive? Why did he only start to regret it when he died? Father, are you still not going to forgive me? If you don't forgive me, you will regret it. You won't have the chance to forgive me in the future. Lung Chinga's smile became brighter and brighter. It was so beautiful that it was as if she had traveled back in time to more than 20 years ago. She acted coquettishly and shamelessly by her father's side, throwing a tantrum at the eldest daughter of the family. However, she was unconditionally tolerated by her father, causing her brothers to be so jealous that they couldn't bear to watch. Let's go. It's fine if we don't watch a farce. Su Qinghua stood up angrily and left while everyone was dumbfounded. At that moment, Lung Chinga straightened her back as if she had lost all her strength. She bent her back weakly. The despair and coldness that came from her bones was something Hao Lianfei would never forget for the rest of her life. The mother and daughter were too alike. They smiled brightly and moved. At the same time, the pain was heart-wrenching. Chinga and Juanhao couldn't stand it anymore. He took a few steps forward and carried her up from the ground before Fu Juanxing could. I'm fine. Lung Chinga broke free from Juanhao's embrace and walked step by step to the shocked priest. She said arrogantly, "Announce the end of the wedding. Even God wouldn't agree to a wedding that isn't allowed by anyone." This isn't very good, is it? The Italian godfather was extremely regretful that he had to learn Chinese. It was too torturous. China was really scary. He would never come to China to host a wedding in the future. Wait. Zhou Huaxiu took a few steps forward. This is my son's wedding. Who allowed you to do this? Lung Chinga's red lips curled into a mocking smile. Zhou Huaxiu did not like her. She had known since she was young. She did not expect that after so many years, nothing had changed. Your son can only marry Su He for the rest of his life. Her suddenly raised voice was forceful and overbearing that could not be rejected. You? Zhou Huaxiu was so angry that she almost fainted. She was simply too detestable and too arrogant. Chi Che took a step forward to support the unsteady Zhou Huaxiu and said to Chi Qing, "Sister, send all the guests out." No matter what the reason was, there was no need for this wedding to continue. Chi Qing hurriedly nodded and politely went forward to send the reluctant guests out. Wait! Fu Juanxing shouted and stopped him. Chi Che's eyes darkened. Could it be that he still didn't want to give up? Mr. Fu, even if you don't mind, our Chi family cannot afford to lose face. And Juanhao looked at Fu Juanxing with pity and said in a deep voice, Fu Juanxing, you really don't know that He is your own daughter? Even He himself knew, but as a father, he didn't realize it at all. It was really sad. What did you say? Fu Juanxing stared at Junho in disbelief. His gaze was so terrifying that it made people feel fear from the bottom of their hearts. Slowly, he turned his gaze to Lenking, and his blood-red eyes stared at her for a long time. You still don't want to believe it, do you? Lung Chinga laughed at herself. This was also the reason why she could see Wen Ling as her only opponent for so many years. Even though she was locked up in the mental hospital now, she still had to admire her methods back then. She schemed so meticulously that Fu Juanxing still didn't believe that the child was his. This is the paternity test. I prepared it for a long time. Just treat it as a gift for you. Lung Chinga handed over the folder in her hand with a sad expression. She never thought that there would come a day when she, Lung Chinga, would need to use the paternity test to prove her innocence. The hand that caught the folder trembled violently. The deathly gray color on his face made one's heart tremble. Because his hand was trembling very much, he tried many times to open it with great difficulty. When he tried to read the words clearly on it, he only felt a sharp pain in his chest. A fishy and sweet taste rushed into his throat, and he couldn't hold it in any longer. He spat out a mouthful of blood, dyeing the clean white paper in front of him red. In an instant, his entire body fell backward in a dispirited manner. Mr. Fu, Shin Bing rushed forward in a panic and supported him with a worried look on his face. Impossible. This is impossible. It must be a fake. You must have cheated. How can Su He be father's child? It must be impossible. Fake, fake, this is an illusion, an illusion. Fu Mingyao was on the verge of collapse from the sudden news. She pointed at Lung Chinga with a crazed expression and retreated step by step. In the end, she covered her head in pain and rushed out with a scream. Butler Bai's face was pale. His painstaking plan had failed at the last moment. He was afraid that there would be no hope in the future. Fu Mingyao was afraid that she would not be able to withstand this blow. She rushed out just like that. It was really worrying, so she could only follow them out. Tang Yi and He Fifan, who were left at the scene, looked at each other. They saw countless astonishment and surprise in each other's eyes. Fu Juanxing's vision turned black as he looked at the date on the paternity test. This date was actually 10 years ago. Lung Chinga, why are you doing this to me? This was 100 times more painful than being cut into 1,000 pieces. His biological daughter should have enjoyed all the respect and love, but because of him, she had suffered so much pain and humiliation. Fu Juanxing's heart was filled with regret. It pressed down on him endlessly, and it was worse than death. Do you know how much I hate you? Ever since when Ling helped you give birth to Fu Mingyao, ever since you chased me out of the Fu family on a stormy night, ever since you trapped me by the Sunset Lake, ever since you forced He to go to America for Fu Mingyao 5 years ago, ever since you made Chi Che give up and declared He as your lover. Long Xinga's every sentence was like a steel blade stabbing in a Fu Juanxing's heart at the same time. It stabbed into Chi Che's heart, and every stab was dripping with blood. Chi Che fiercely punched the glass stile in the corridor. In an instant, the stile broke into countless pieces, and many tiny pieces pierced deeply into his hand, instantly dripping with blood. However, he seemed to not feel it all. His punches did not stop, and the 1-meter-tall stile broke into pieces, making people's hearts palpitate. However, no one dared to come forward to stop him. They were intimidated by his terrifying expression and ice-cold gaze. His eyes were deep, dark, and calm like a 1,000-year-old deep pool, without the slightest ripple. Chi Ching's heart ached when he saw this, but he stood still, even tightly holding onto the agitated Zhou Huaxiao. She knew that at this moment, the last thing Ache needed was someone else's comfort. Long Chinga took one step at a time and said aggressively, as He's biological father, do you know what the only thing you left for her is? It's a congenital heart disease, an assertion that she won't live past the age of 20. At the end of her sentence, Lung Chinga was so agitated that she lost control. Enough! Fu Juanxing clutched his chest. In an instant, he seemed to have aged more than 10 years. His originally well-maintained black hair and 2 sideburns had turned white. A night of white hair was nothing more than that. Lung Chinga, you're ruthless. You're so ruthless. There has never been a woman more ruthless than you. Such a punishment was crueler than any form of torture. I thought that admitting Meng Yao's identity would be a great punishment for you. I didn't expect you to be even more powerful. You endured 20 years just to give me a fatal blow. You did it. Fu Juanxing stared at Lung Chinga. His eyes were terrifyingly red and terrifyingly cold. The eldest miss is actually not Mr. Fu's daughter. Shin Bing could not help but reveal the secret that had been in his heart for many years. Back then, Mr. Fu had only acknowledged Fu Mingyao because he owed Wen Ling a promise. It was because he was too confident and did not want to defend himself that caused the subsequent misunderstanding. Lung Chinga's delicate body trembled. She closed her eyes slightly and said slowly after a long while, "Is there any use in saying this now? She has always been the eldest miss of the Fu family for more than 20 years. while he has been the illegitimate daughter for more than 20 years. She had never liked to regret. After experiencing so many hardships, it could only be said that they did not love each other deeply enough. They were too strong and too calculative. If they were not self-righteous and suspicious of each other, how could they have caused the situation today? What was wrong was already wrong. No matter what the reason was, the result couldn't be changed. What was owed to he was owed, and it couldn't be easily erased. Fu Juanqing had always thought that Su He was the iron proof that she had betrayed him. Didn't she also think that Fu Mingyao was the iron proof of his betrayal? Leng Qingge turned around indifferently. Today, there was no turning back. The hatred in her heart was gone, and the love was gone. She no longer had any regrets. Wait! Chi-Che suddenly stepped forward and blocked Leng Qingge's way. Tell me where he is. Leng Qingge raised her head and looked at Chi-Che expressionlessly. I admire you, but that doesn't mean I can forgive you. Didn't you almost strangle her to death in your bathroom yesterday? Now you want to look for her? Chi-Che's expression changed, and his eyes were filled with a layer of heartache. I will definitely make it up to you, no matter what the price. Leng Qingge's lips curled into a flirtatious smile. The entire dull space was bright and moving because of her smile. He Jihua deeply understood that Su Qingge's beauty was peerless no matter what. However, her smile probably had a profound meaning. The people of their generation knew how evil Su Qingge was the most. From the way she dealt with Fu Juanqing, she knew that Su Qingge was not only evil, but also terrifyingly deep. After the way the Qi family treated Su He, she would definitely not let it go. It's too late. Leng Qingge quietly leaned on Juanhao and slowly said, although you didn't strangle He to death, you strangled your child. What's the difference between that and killing her? The child that she wanted to keep with her life was aborted because of you. Do you think it's still possible for the two of you? After saying that, she coldly walked past Chi-Che, she pulled the dazed Hao Lianfei and left. Sure enough, everyone present had ashen faces and their bodies were suffused with a chill. He Jihua smiled wryly. Like mother, like daughter. They didn't retaliate, but they were crueler than any punishment. Qi Qingming stamped her foot and wanted to chase after them, but Chi-Che pulled her back. Ache! Qi Qing cried out in pain. Qi Qing, had never done anything she regretted, nor did she feel sorry for anyone. Su He was the first. Let them go. Chi-Che let go and looked at his right hand in a daze. His slender fingers were sickly pale, and his gaze was terrifyingly cold. His hands should be crippled. A gunshot tore through the quiet sky. Outside, heavy snow fluttered. Duju was walking as fast as he could in the snow. When he heard the gunshot, his face was filled with worry. He quickly rushed into the manor and pushed open the church's door. The chaotic scene made his vision go black. Chi-Che stood alone on the walkway. His right palm was pierced by a bullet, and it was a shocking sight. Ache! Zhou Huaxiu screamed and directly fainted. Qi Qing snatched the gun from Chi-Che's hand. His heart ached, and he was furious. I know you feel sorry for Su He and feel sorry for her, but you don't have to hurt yourself like this. President, Miss Su is in the hospital now. Duju really didn't dare to tell Chi-Che the details of his investigation. Chi-Che closed his eyes. The anomalies in the past and the suspicions in his heart had been confirmed. He had already guessed it without Duju saying anything. Chi-Che turned around and coldly glanced at Fu Juanqing. I want to go to the hospital. Do you want to go? Since he was He's biological father, he had to save some face, even though he really didn't want to. Fu Juanqing's eyes were empty and despairing, and his voice was bitter. You go. See her one last time. The footsteps that had already lifted their feet to leave stopped abruptly. Chi-Che closed his eyes in pain and concealed all the emotions in his heart. If it was the last time, he might as well not see her. Many people gathered outside Su He's ward. The narrow corridor was almost completely surrounded, and the atmosphere was so depressing that it made people depressed. Everyone looked at the man who had been standing at the window of the ward. His tall and slim back made people's eyes ache. He had been standing here for 3 whole days. He didn't eat, drink, or speak. His chin was covered with a beard. He looked dispirited and didn't have the usual strong, deep, and capable look. They had never seen such a Chi-Che before. Now it seemed a little unbelievable. It was Chi-Che if it wasn't anyone else. Would Chi-Che be like this? It was simply unimaginable. Other than being surprised at Chi-Che, the people outside were more curious about Su Hehe. It turned out that they had been blinded by jealousy because of Su Hehe's beauty. Everyone, please leave. Lung Chinga walked out of the ward accompanied by Juanhao and said coldly, "There's no need for so many people here. President Chi, please go back too." Chi-Che silently turned around and looked at Lung Chinga. His eyes were abnormally bright as he said in a hoarse voice, "Let me in." Lung Chinga sighed and only said after everyone left, "Do you want to save Hehe?" Chi-Che nodded without hesitation. "No matter the cost. We have found the heart that is most suitable for Hehe. We can carry out the operation tomorrow." Chi-Che frowned in confusion. "I must know the details. If it was so simple, Hehe would not have dragged it to the last step." However, Su Chinga did not look too worried, so Hehe still preferred her words. Professor Angus nodded. "I'm here to perform the operation on Helen." President Du Ju anxiously came out of the elevator and interrupted their conversation. The displeasure on Chi-Che's face was even more obvious. Du Ju was shocked and stammered. "Miss Fu slit her wrist in the room and committed suicide. She has been sent to the hospital for emergency treatment. Madam wants you to go immediately." Lung Chinga couldn't help but sneer. Some people just like to do it, and bitches were just pretentious. Actually, Du Ju didn't want to run and lie down either. It was obviously Fu Mengyao's scheme, but Madam's heart ached for her future grandson and forced him to run. "How's the child?" Chi-Che's words made everyone shake their heads in disapproval. Even Lung Chinga's eyes were filled with disappointment. It's still being treated. The child should be fine." Du Ju broke out in a cold sweat. The CEO had never cared about the child in Fu Mengyao's stomach. Why would he suddenly ask about this? "Go. Ask the doctor to abort the child during the resuscitation. It's too dangerous to commit suicide. I'll make sure the adults don't try to save the child." Chi-Che's eyes were fixed on Su Hehe's ward. His expression was gentle. Du Ju shivered. This. Can't you complete the mission?" "I promised to complete the mission." Du Ju didn't want to stay any longer and left in a hurry. Lung Chinga finally smiled in satisfaction. She patted Chi-Che's arm and comforted him. "I didn't misjudge you. You're much stronger than Fu Junxing back then. He is lucky." "Thank you, Annie." Chi-Che bowed respectfully to Lung Chinga and said seriously, "I'll leave Hehe to Annie. I still have a few important things to deal with. I'll be back as soon as I'm done." He had to clear all the obstacles for Hehe. Go. Lung Chinga smiled even more cheerfully, as if the unconscious person had nothing to do with her. And Juanhao lowered his eyes in pain and watched Chi-Che walk away before he spoke. "Chinga, are you really going to do this? Is there no other way?" Lung Chinga's expression froze. She looked at her watch. It was already 7 o'clock. The Su family should be having dinner at this time. Right, it was really a good time for a family gathering. "Juanhao, let's go." Professor Angus, who was silent, pulled Lung Chinga and said in English with an uncertain expression, "I hope Helen won't hate me when she wakes up. Please God forgive him for making such a selfish thought. He definitely won't hate you. She will only hate me." She knew this daughter too well. The Beijing branch of the Qi Group had gathered all the executives. This place had become the Qi Group's true headquarters. The meeting room was eerily quiet. Dozens of executives sat upright, but no one dared to speak. Everyone looked at the empty seats and looked at each other. The excitement and curiosity in their eyes could not be hidden. The news was really explosive. They did not expect Su He to be Mr. Fu's biological daughter, the first daughter of City A. Not only that, Su He's mother was actually the legendary queen of the entertainment industry, the eldest daughter of the Su family. This identity would scare people to death. Were their eyes blinded by dog sh*t in the past, they actually thought that Su Hehe was an illegitimate daughter who relied on means to get to the top. If they had known earlier they would have taken the opportunity to curry favor with him. However, Fu Mingyao was pitiful. The number one daughter of City was actually not the biological daughter of the richest man. At most, she was just an adopted daughter. It must not feel good to fall from the altar all of a sudden, right? The crisp sound of high heels hitting the floor came from outside. Hao Yinfei took the lead and walked in. Everyone immediately cast envious gazes on Hao Yinfei. She, director Hao Yinfei, had always been Su He's good sister. She had gone through thick and thin with her. If she didn't become successful in the future, even the president would have to give her some face. Hao Yinfei looked at the empty main seat and walked to Lung Yinfeng. She lowered her head and whispered, "Something happened to Yin Chuqing. She's in a bad mood in the hospital. You should go and take a look." Lung Yinfeng stood up and lost control of his emotions. He even brought a chair with him and made a loud noise. He didn't care about the surprised looks of the others and ran out in a hurry. Hao Yinfei sat down in her seat in a low mood. She tried to think in her mind when Lung Yinfeng and Yin Chuqing had gotten so close, she actually did not realize it before. However, Yin Chuqing was such an arrogant woman who was raped. She must not be able to stand being raped. Right, she heard from Du Ju on the phone that his emotions had completely collapsed. "Director, many department heads are secretly envious of you to death." The little assistant whispered in her ear with an excited face. Hao Yinfei glanced over coldly and indeed found that many people nodded at her. The smile on the corner of her mouth became even more bitter. If they knew the specific situation of He, no one would be able to laugh. He had been unconscious in the hospital for 3 days. It was probably not a good thing for the president to suddenly hold an emergency meeting tonight. The people in the meeting room were still waiting, while Chi had not come out since he entered the Qi family's old master study with Qi Zongxing. He had not even eaten dinner. Zhou Huaxiu and Qi Qing had been sitting on the sofa in the hall, anxiously waiting. It was not until the hour hand pointed to 9 o'clock that the study door was opened. Qi came out with a tired expression and returned to his own room. "Ah Qing, go and see how Ah Che is doing." Zhou Huaxiu urged Qi Qing. "I don't want to. Why don't you go and see how father and grandfather are doing?" Qi Qing suggested. "I'm not going." Neither of them had the guts to go. "Then let's continue waiting." Half an hour later, Qi, who had showered and changed into a dark blue suit, came downstairs quickly. "Ah Che, aren't you going to eat before you leave?" Qi stopped and frowned slightly. "If mother is bored, then go on a trip abroad. I've already booked the ticket for you. I'll get someone to send the itinerary to your email." "Global tour." Zhou Huaxiu screamed in disbelief. "Ah Che, are you taking revenge on me?" Qi slowly shook his head and left. "If it was revenge, it wouldn't be so simple." "Mom, HC Qi isn't taking revenge. He just despises you. We were wrong from the start. You shouldn't have played a trick on Fu Mingyao. Ah Che is right to be angry. Go on a global tour tomorrow." Zhou Huaxiu trembled with anger. "This is clearly exile. Mom, you're so smart. Qi Qing, you'll immediately meet the troops tomorrow." Qi Zongxing stood at the stairs on the second floor with a serious expression. Yes, Qi Qing's expression was serious. She had never dared to be presumptuous in front of her father, and she had indeed left for too long. She should go back. In the Qi group's meeting room, Qi brought Du Ju over quickly. His sharp eyes swept across everyone's faces before he sat down on the main seat. This time, there are 3 important things to announce. First, the Qi group will officially move their headquarters to Beijing. The sooner the better. This is too sudden. Yes. Do you have any objections? Qi raised his head impatiently, scaring everyone into silence. Second, leave it to Director Hao Lian to handle. Announce to the public that the marriage between the Qi group and the Fu group has been canceled. Through all the media, newspapers, and magazines under the group, all negative influences will be suppressed. Yes. Also, completely stop the cooperation with the Fu group, no matter the cost. This, President, what are you doing? Some of the elders of the group couldn't help but stand up and ask with terrified faces. Qi smiled coldly. That's right. I want to buy the Fu Corporation. I'll give you 3 days. You must give me the most perfect acquisition plan. Sure enough, if you can't do it, you can say it now. I can hand this over to the International Finance Department. You can do it. You can definitely do it. What a joke. A plan worth 10 billion could not even be snatched away. Only an idiot would hand it over. However, why did the president want to buy the Fu Corporation, whether it was marrying Fu Mingyao or Su He? The Fu Corporation was still in his hands. Chi-Che frowned slightly and rubbed his glabella tiredly. Clearly, he was not very satisfied with this answer. There's another matter. While I'm away, the Time Corporation will leave everything to Gu Youxiang. Xingyan will take Du Ju's place. Let's get to know each other. As soon as Chi-Che finished speaking, the door of the meeting room was opened from outside. A man who was 1.8 meters tall and wore a gray suit walked in with his head held high. His actions were swift and decisive. When Du Ju saw Gu Youxiang, he had a look of seeing a ghost. He was so shocked that his jaw could not close. You guys continue to discuss the rest with CEO Gu. Chi-Che suddenly pushed the chair and left, ignoring everyone's ugly expressions. Du Ju hurriedly followed him out and asked worriedly, "So?" Du Ju's words had just left his mouth when he was interrupted by Chi-Che Ming. "Come to the Su family with me now." Du Ju sighed in defeat. Gu Youxiang was the CEO's executive in the underworld. He never cared about these things. The CEO actually transferred him to be in charge of the company's matters. What did the CEO want to do? Did he really want to give up? Du Ju shivered at the thought of this possibility, but he could not suppress the bad feeling in his heart. Lung Qinga had been standing outside the Su family's courtyard for an hour. No matter how hard Juanhao tried to persuade her, she refused to move an inch. "Juanhao, do you know? The longer I stand here now, the more guilty my father will feel in the future." Lung Qinga's voice was cold with a hint of despair. Although all of this was her plan, standing outside the door of her own family would still hurt and make her feel sad. And Juanhao's eyes showed a trace of heartache. "I know. Juanhao, after I die, you have to live well in this life. If there is a next life, I will definitely repay what I owe you." Lung Qinga's eyes were empty, and hot tears rolled down her cheeks. And Juanhao held Lung Qinga in his arms and said domineeringly, "I will not let go of you in the next life. Even if you still don't love me, I will snatch you away." "Qinga, how could you be so stupid? If you don't make up your mind to accompany me, how could he bear to watch you throw away your life? It was enough for him to die with you at the last moment in his life. It was not a waste of his 20 years of waiting. Juanhao, do you know? He was really cute when he was young. I have never regretted it as much as I do now. She shouldn't be Fu Jianxing's child. How good would it be if she wasn't Fu Jianxing's child?" "Qinga, don't say anymore. It's not your fault." And Juanhao held her tightly in his arms, his heart aching so much that he could hardly breathe. The more painful thing than death was to see the misfortune of the woman he loved. If he had been braver, more domineering, and more tyrannical, perhaps she would not have had such a deep relationship with Fu Jianxing and would not have ended up like this. And Juanhao looked at the ambulance that had been waiting in the distance for a long time. His eyes were filled with a layer of deathly gray. These people were waiting for Qing Ji's beating heart. How did Qinga have the heart to arrange everything for him? "Juanhao, I'm sorry. After I die, please help me and take care of He." He slowly raised his hand that was holding the gun and aimed it at his temple. Time seemed to have stopped at this moment. And Juanhao hugged Lung Qinga even tighter, wishing that he could rub her into his bones and blood. "Qinga, I will arrange it well. There will be many people who will love her and love her. She will definitely be happy." The dining room of the Su family was also full of people. Su Qinghua sat at the main seat, but the food in front of him did not move at all. "Father, Qinga has been away for so long and has eaten so much. She should be punished enough. Just let her in." The eldest son of the Su family, Su Qinga's eldest brother, Su Qingliang, put down his chopsticks and said with a pained expression, the only sister of the Su family, the sister that he doted on the most in the past. He had asked around in private for so many years, but there had been no news. He should be happy to be back now, but his father always wanted to save face. No matter how much they said, he would not agree. Su Qinghua's expression was a little moved. His only daughter's feelings were different from other people's. However, when he thought about his wife's death, his heart hardened. If it were not for Qing Ji's wife back then, she would not have been so angry that she fell ill and died early. He had sworn that he would never allow Qing Ge to step into the Su family. Grandfather, do you want to be like Fu Juanxing? Do you want to wake up when you are about to force your own daughter to death? Su Guining said. Su Qinghua slammed the table angrily. I will not be like that idiot Fu Juanxing. Su Guining shook his head disapprovingly. He did not think that his grandfather would suffer because he wanted to save face. He was already worried that he would not be able to get her, but he still refused to let go. Get her out of here. Don't dirty the Su family's land. Su Qinghua stood up and ordered angrily. No one in the Su family dared to disobey him. Su Guining had no choice but to stand up reluctantly. Suddenly, a gunshot cut through the quiet night. The ear-piercing sound seemed to grab everyone's heart. Understanding how stubborn Lung Qingge was therefore, Su Qingliang was the first to lose his balance and rushed out. Su Qinghua fell on the chair and couldn't help but mutter to himself, Qingge, you're forcing me to die. Grandpa, don't worry, and we'll be fine. No one dares to be presumptuous in the Su family's territory. Others don't dare, but she, Su Qingge, dares. She's taking revenge on me. She committed suicide in front of the Su family's door in front of me. She's punishing me. Su Qinghua's face was horrifyingly ugly. His old face seemed to have lost all its strength in an instant. It was so dispirited that it made people scared. Grandfather, you're thinking too much. It won't be like this. It won't do this. Please sit down, and I'll go out and take a look. Before Su Guining could go out, a gunshot shocked everyone in the Su family. The eldest daughter-in-law was even more shocked and ran out faster than Su Guining. Outside the door, a pair of tightly hugging men and women fell in a pool of blood. Fu Juanxing stood in the distance in a daze. His appearance was not much different from death. Su Qingliang's eyes were about to explode. His vision turned black, and he almost fainted. It turned out that everyone had guessed that Qing Ge would do this, but they, the people closest to her, had coldly rejected her. In fact, she just wanted to go home once before she died, right? Qing Ge. He did not expect that his sister, whom he had not seen for 20 years, would die when they met. Even a man of iron could not bear this blow. On the road opposite the Su family, an extended Bentley slowly rolled up the window. Chi-Che's handsome side profile disappeared into the car window. Duju looked at Chi-Che without saying a word. He had once thought that he knew the CEO the best, but even he could not see through him at first. He had always been worried, but he didn't think that the CEO already knew about this. Only Lung Qingge's heart was the best match for Su-He. But he shouldn't sacrifice Lung Qingge. If Su-He woke up and knew about this, he wouldn't be able to accept it, right? Auntie and He. I can only choose He. I'm sure Auntie made the same decision. Chi-Che leaned against the back of the chair and slowly closed his eyes. His heart hurt so much that he couldn't breathe. He, you must survive. You sacrificed so much, you must survive. If you can't survive, how can I have the courage to continue living? She did not know when Su-He woke up. She only knew that she had slept for a very long time. She vaguely remembered that the teacher had a haggard face that day. He was standing by the hospital bed and arguing intensely with someone. From what he said, it seemed that he was going to announce his official retirement. He would never use a scalpel again. The other party seemed to be strongly against it and blamed him for using his own medical team to perform the surgery on her. The success rate was almost zero. A surgery that he knew would not succeed would only drag down his reputation. It would leave an unpleasant mark on his glorious life experience. Helen was indeed very talented. She was the student who had the most ability to meet Professor Angus' expectations, but this student could not do it anymore. He really did not need to sacrifice everything for her. Judging from her voice, the person who spoke should be the vice president of Hopkins Hospital, Professor George. He was a psychology major and an extremely fussy old man. In the past, he would often find fault with her when she was in school. Su-He was furious when he heard that. Her originally heavy eyelids were lifted by her with great effort. Finally, a glimmer of light appeared in the dark world. So when she opened her eyes and raised her index finger weakly, the two of them were both excited and incredulous. Professor Angus was so excited that tears flowed down his face. Professor George also looked at her in disbelief. He wanted to go up and take off her oxygen mask and give her a good scolding. Was this girl going against him? She had been in a coma for 2 years, but just as he announced that she was completely in a vegetative state and would never wake up again, she actually woke up. This was clearly a deliberate challenge to his authority. Helen, you're finally awake. That's great. If you don't wake up, I really don't know what I should. Professor Angus didn't continue, but Sue Hee clearly knew what he meant. To be known as the angel's hand, she had put in a lot of effort and clearly knew that she and her mother's various matches were the most perfect and most suitable. Now that she had woken up, her mother should have been long gone, right? This beating heart of hers belonged to her mother. She had sacrificed her mother, but she didn't live on. Her mother wouldn't die in peace, right? Therefore, she woke up. She did everything she could to wake up. She did not let down her mother's sacrifice and her teacher's expectations. Mother, he did not disappoint you. He would definitely live well and continue your wonderful and legendary life. Tears flowed down the corners of her eyes unconsciously. She could not stop crying. The white pillow under her head was mostly wet. Professor Angus said with heartache, Helen, why don't I ask George to hypnotize you and forget everything you want to forget? Helen had always had a delicate heart. Although she did not say it on the surface, she knew better than anyone that after experiencing so much pain, anyone would be crushed, collapse, or even suffer from depression. It was already very difficult to recover in the later stages, relying entirely on oxygen and nutrient fluids. If the mental illness was added to it, it would be almost impossible to recover. Sue Hee did not have the strength to speak or to shake his head. He could only express his unwillingness through his eyes. Every memory of hers was the most precious, and she could not bear to forget it. After great sorrow came enlightenment. Sue Hee felt that he was now like an ancient monk. He had seen all the joys and sorrows of the world, and his heart had long been as still as water. Professor George was hopping mad at the side. His English was mixed with German from time to time, as he complained, I'm the best psychology professor in the world. To be able to personally hypnotize you, not only are you not moved to tears, but you actually despise me? Sue Hee really did not have the energy to watch this weird old man's performance. He fell into a deep sleep again. The second time he woke up, it was still a familiar room. However, the teacher was not there. He respected and feared his senior. The teacher's proudest student, William, was sitting in front of her. His long and big hand held his hand in the palm of his hand and held it tightly. William was the most adored male god in the hearts of all the young girls in university. His tall and straight figure, coupled with his well-defined, handsome face and brilliant blonde hair, especially his pair of clear blue eyes, anyone would be immersed in it and unable to extricate themselves. He was so handsome that he did not look like a doctor. On the contrary, he looked like the most fashionable male model. However, such a person was a medical maniac. He was immersed in medicine and biology. In his eyes, there is probably no difference between a man and a woman. There should be various molecular and physical structures, right? Thinking of this, Sue Hee forced a smile. Although Senior William did not have much contact with her, she really admired him. At this moment, William was staring at her with a pair of deep blue eyes, causing her to be at a loss for what to do. Fortunately, she had just woken up and could not even speak. Otherwise, she would be so embarrassed that she would die. When she woke up for the third time, the teacher was leading an authoritative medical team to study the best recovery plan for her later period. Seeing that she had woken up, the teacher chased everyone out. One of them sat by the bedside and briefly told her about her return to the United States. Lung Chinga's matter could not be said, and there was no need to say it. That was all he could say. Through the teacher's explanation, she roughly knew that she had fallen into a deep coma after the heart transplant operation in Beijing. She was almost no different from a vegetable. Chi had even mobilized mercenaries to seal up the entire hospital in the end. How Lianfei took out her mother's living will and sent her to the United States on a special plane. On the day she left, it was the Chinese Lunar New Year. Chi stood alone in the snow. The snow fell all over his body. He did not move like a snowman until their plane flew high into the sky and completely disappeared from sight. The rest of matter was unknown. Suhi's eyes were dry, and she cried silently. In the end, she said with difficulty, "Teacher, thank you." Later on, Suhi had been sleeping and waking up in this dazed state. When her body had truly recovered, her mental state had also improved. It had already been 5 years since she could walk out of the hospital. Even her teacher had officially retired for more than a year. Senior William took over his position and became the youngest director of Hopkins Hospital. Under Professor George's resentful gaze and endless chatter, they walked out of the hospital together. Looking at the hospital gate behind them, Suhi smiled sincerely. This place had almost become her second home, as she had very complicated feelings. Countless days and nights of suffering accompanied her here. She hoped that she would never come back after leaving this place. "What are you going to do in the future?" William asked casually with his hands in the pockets of his white coat. "Let's go back to China first." Uncle Anne's entertainment company was handed over to her to inherit. She wanted to go back and experience what her mother had done for him, and continue to complete the work that Uncle Anne had worked hard for his entire life. She could not let Uncle Anne down. William's expression darkened. "Are you still going back to that place in China?" He really did not have a good impression of China. Who would be so harsh on He did not expect her to still want to go back. "Where's my home, my motherland? No matter what happens outside, I still have to go back in the end." There was no one she cared about the most. "If this is your decision, I will support you. In the future, I will go to China to look for you." William smiled gently. Suhi also smiled from the bottom of his heart and gave him a big hug. "I will definitely wait for the arrival of Senior in China. I hope that Senior, who has a lot of things to do, will definitely come." "With your mouth." William dotingly poked her nose and sent her into the car. Looking at the car leaving, William's eyes were covered with a layer of shadow. Helen must have chosen that man when she went back. Right, if this was her choice, he would respect her. However, if that man still could not protect her, he would definitely snatch her back. Starlight Entertainment Company was one of the most powerful entertainment companies in the entertainment industry. It was located in the bustling city circle. It was just a street away from Star Alliance Entertainment Company. Two buildings with unique styles faced each other across the street. Starlight Entertainment Company had a deep background and had nurtured countless superstars. The legendary superstar of the entertainment industry, Lung Chinga, was originally from this company and held an important position in the industry. Star Alliance was affiliated to the Chi Group and had the backing of a powerful financial magnate. They had control over all the major media resources. After recent years of development, their momentum was unstoppable. The superstars under them were all very rich. Although the two companies had many partnerships, it was inevitable that they would be compared. After a long time, everyone would feel angry, and it was inevitable that they would feel uncomfortable. Today was a very important day for Starlight Entertainment. Even the fans who usually lined up at the entrance were blocked by the security guards, and there was a gap in the middle. The general manager of Starlight, Han Tianyu, the diamond bachelor of the entertainment industry, personally led many executives to stand side by side on both sides of the road to welcome the president of Starlight Entertainment. The time gradually moved from 8 o'clock in the morning to 11 o'clock. The people who were supposed to appear had not been seen at all. Han Tianyu's assistant was sweating profusely. Meanwhile, the mood of the many media reporters who were stopped by the security guard was getting higher and higher. They were so excited that they were pushing and shoving each other. The flashlights were so bright that they could dazzle people in broad daylight. There is absolutely no one in the entertainment industry who could make the general manager of Starlight Entertainment wait for 3 hours in person. It was because they could not think of it that they were even more curious and wanted to dig out the truth. Among the many media reporters, there were also reporters under Starlight Entertainment's own banner. Many people focused their attention on them and secretly inquired about who exactly needed Han Tianyu to personally welcome them early in the morning and waited for 3 hours without showing any signs of anger. This gave them a whiff of major news. The 3 hours of waiting made the people who had been waiting in line lose their patience. Everyone's gaze fell on Han Tianyu and found that their general manager had been waiting calmly, and there was not even a hint of unhappiness on his face. Many of the company's proud and aloof ace producers said in dissatisfaction, "If the general manager wants to wait, then continue to wait. We still have a lot of things to do. We really can't afford to waste this time." A person who had disappeared for 5 years, even if the entire Starlight was hers, would not be able to withstand such recklessness. Han Tianyu straightened his silver-gray suit and said nonchalantly, "She's worth the wait. You know her." They had only heard of the successor of the company, but had never met her. They had heard that she was very mysterious. In a few days, it will be the 5th anniversary of the legendary diva Lung Chinga's death. She will definitely return. "President Han, it's for you." The secretary, Angie, rushed forward and handed Han Tianyu's phone. Han Tianyu frowned when he saw the number at the end of the line. There were very few people in Beijing who could use such an awesome number, and his sworn enemy happened to be one of them. After the call was connected, an old and childish voice came from the other end. "Han Tianyu, you're my way." Han Tianyu turned his head and saw that he was really in the way. He couldn't help it. There were too many reporters outside, and almost half of the road was occupied. On the other side, the president of Interstellar Union loved to put on airs. He wouldn't sit in a limousine unless it was extended every time he went to work. Furthermore, he had changed the brands in various ways. It was estimated that the garage of President Qi's Pingu Villa was almost full. Thinking of this, Han Tianyu said with a fake smile, "Brother Lei, then you can just wait. Today is the first day that our family's eldest daughter takes over the company. At most, I'm just a butler. I can't be negligent. I heard that you've been waiting for 3 hours. It's not good to be left out, is it? It's not good to be a butler. I understand you. Actually, you can come to our house and be a butler. I'm very kind to the servants." The old man's voice was even more unbridled. Han Tianyu was so angry that he gritted his teeth. He could not understand why a man like President Qi would give birth to a scoundrel like Qi Lei. Calling him shameless was simply an insult to shamelessness. Han Tianyu hung up the phone gloomily. The anger that he had been waiting for a long time was finally aroused. He quickly dialed a number. Right now, he wanted to beat Su Hehe up. Han Tianyu, would definitely become the biggest joke in the entertainment industry this year. Su Hehe arrived at Lung Chinga's cemetery in the morning and stayed until noon. He told her about his experiences in the past few years in detail, but most of the time he was silent. She and her mother had always had a tacit understanding of each other's thoughts. She knew her mother's wish, and she would fulfill it for her. In the end, she stood up and gave in Juanhao's grave a deep bow. It was a long time before she straightened her back. "Mother, Uncle will visit you often in the future." After coming down from the mountain, it was already past lunchtime. Suhi had a hard time walking. He found a random restaurant to fill his stomach before taking a taxi to Starlight Entertainment. Along the way, the talkative taxi driver heard that she was going to Starlight Entertainment and said with envy, "Miss, you are so beautiful. You will definitely be a big star in the future. When the time comes, remember to give me your autograph." Su Hehe quickly shook his head, indicating that he was not an artist, but he could help him get the autographs of other artists. "Then do you know Zhang Xiaoxiao?" Su Hehe shook his head with a blank look, but he immediately nodded. Although she did not know, she was now the heir of Starlight Entertainment. If he wanted an artist's autograph, Han Tianyu would have to obediently get it done. "That's great. You must tell her that even if she is now plagued by scandals, I will still support her as always. Oh my God, the female lead that she plays is so beautiful." Su Hehe was speechless. Was he encouraging her like that again for a celebrity? Being plagued by scandals was basically ruined. It was impossible for them to make a comeback. However, Su Hehe agreed readily in the end and took the initiative to ask for Zhang Xiaoxiao's autograph. Then, he helped to mail it to the taxi company. The taxi driver was so happy that he did not even ask for the fare before he drove away. Su Hehe shook his head and laughed. He slowly walked into the entrance of Starlight Entertainment. It was a modern building with a fashionable and elegant exterior design. After entering the interior, there was a pure white decoration style. There were also dazzling and eye-catching celebrities on the walls and on the electronic screens. Everywhere, she fell in love with them at a glance. "Miss, may I help you?" The young security guard hurriedly blocked her way. They had no choice. There were often fanatical fans who barged in. They had to be on guard. Suhihi raised his eyebrows. He took off the large sunglasses on his eyes and revealed a beautiful face. His originally fair skin had a hint of paleness because he had been recuperating from his illness for 5 years. It was like fragile crystal glass. Her long, black, wavy hair reached her waist, and her every frown and smile was naturally charming. Her tight-fitting jeans made her figure even more sexy. The people who passed by could not help but cast a strange look. There was no lack of beautiful women here. Even the security guards were numb to beautiful women. But her appearance still made people unable to help but be amazed. They all wondered if she was a new artist signed by the company. "I'm looking for Han Tianyu," Suhihi said casually. "Do you have an appointment?" She lowered her head and thought for a moment, then shook her head. She had made Han Tianyu wait for her for the whole morning. He would probably fly into a rage right now. Right, therefore, the appointment did not count. Leave quickly without an appointment. President Han is not someone that anyone can see just because they want to. The security guard waved his hand impatiently, as if he was shooing away flies. Suhihi took out his phone and gave the security guard a malicious smile. There were many people who wanted to see her, but there was no one that she could not see right now. The finger that was dialing the number suddenly stopped. She was blocked by the security guard at the main entrance. Calling Han Tianyu for help seemed to be a little unworthy of her identity as the successor. 5 years ago, she was often treated like this. 5 years later, she could not be treated like this again, otherwise it would be too unworthy of her mother. "How about this?" Suhihi crossed his arms and said arrogantly, "Go and inform your President Han. Tell him that Suhihi is here. Give him 10 minutes to come down, or I will tear down his office." The security guard was shocked. He looked at her with a suspicious and ambiguous gaze. Judging from her appearance, she should be one of CEO Han's ex-girlfriends. She must have been unwilling to find fault with CEO Han after he abandoned her. It was very likely that CEO Han was so unfaithful that he had abandoned more women than he could count. It was better to go and report it. Otherwise, it would not be good if there were any scandals. In the CEO's office on the 10th floor, Han Tianyu was staring at the various comments on the internet and was furious. It was one thing for him to be tricked by Suhihi in the morning, but in the afternoon, that brat Chi Lei actually dared to plot against him. Half a year ago, the Galactic Alliance spent a huge sum of money to create a movie that described the life of the late superstar, Lung Chinga. Because Lung Chinga was an artiste of Starlight Entertainment in the past, in order to get the authorization. At that time, they had agreed that the daughter of the supporting actress, Lung Chinga, must be played by an artiste of Starlight Entertainment. Unexpectedly, there was not a single artiste of Starlight Entertainment at the press conference. Otherwise, he would not be so angry. President Han, the list of artistes of Starlight Entertainment that was announced at the Galactic Alliance press conference did not include any artistes of Starlight Entertainment. And she said indignantly, while holding the documents in her hands the Galactic Alliance promised when we signed the contract. "I didn't expect Brother Lei to be so disrespectful." President Han. A crisp knock on the door interrupted Yinqi's words. "Come in." Han Tianyu yelled at the door impatiently. The secretary pushed the door open in fear. Not daring to look at Han Tianyu's ugly expression, she quickly said, "There's a woman named Su Hehe on the first floor. She said that if you don't come down in 10 minutes, she will tear down your office." Han Tianyu laughed in anger. He adjusted his suit and tie and said darkly, "I'll go and welcome her now." The secretary and Angie were stunned at the same time. This really went down? On the first floor, Han Tianyu came with his men in a threatening manner, immediately attracting the attention of everyone in the hall. "Welcome, young Mississippi." Although Han Tianyu was quite angry, he was still very rational. He knew that in front of outsiders, in front of Su Hee, he was only the butler of the family and always remembered Uncle An's will. Su Hee swaggered past Han Tianyu under the stunned expressions of the security guards and in Chi. Han Tianyu hurriedly turned around and followed, not forgetting to turn around and glare at the security guards. "You're finished." And Chi shrugged helplessly and quickly followed him. In the office, Su Hee sat leisurely in Han Tianyu's seat and looked around. "Not bad. The view from the renovation is very good. Isn't the interstellar union opposite? Isn't it sad to drink with your sworn enemy face to face every day? If I were you, I would change to the back office." Han Tianyu gritted his teeth in anger. Why didn't he notice such a bad side when he went to America to see her? "It's fine if you stood me up at today's welcoming party. Later, I will inform all the higher-ups of the company and announce that you will be taking over the company," Han Tianyu explained in a good-natured manner. Thinking that he could finally complete the task that President and had entrusted to him before his death, he finally heaved a sigh of relief. "Don't." Su Hee hurriedly waved his hand. "I don't want to take over this big mess. Besides, my body isn't strong enough to keep up with it." Hearing her words, Han Tianyu hurriedly nodded. He had heard from Uncle An at the company that Su Hee's body indeed couldn't withstand the stimulation and fatigue. This was also the reason why he dared to be angry and not dare to speak up. Even though he had been stood up, he was afraid that he would anger Su Hee instead of being angry. "Why don't you arrange a job for me to play with first? What do you want to do? How about an assistant?" Han Tianyu frowned and immediately objected. "No. How can I let the heir of Starlight Entertainment be a mere assistant? If you can afford to lose face, I can't afford to lose face." "Then arrange for Zhang Xiao." It was convenient for her to ask for an autograph. Han Tianyu's expression turned even uglier. The company had already decided to freeze Zhang Xiao. "Let's go with Bai Xueqing. She's at the peak of her popularity right now." Su Hee shook his head and refused. She did not understand the entertainment industry at all. She had never paid attention to who was more popular and had already made a preconceived assumption in the taxi. Han Tianyu growled in defeat. In the end, he had no choice but to surrender. "All right, I'll send you home to rest first." And she watched as the two of them left the office. She could not come back to her senses for a long time. She had never seen President Han so helpless towards that woman. The expensive Mercedes-Benz circled around the complicated overpass. After making sure that the paparazzi following behind them had left, Han Tianyu finally had the mood to size up Su Hee from the rearview mirror. He realized that the loneliness between her brows, which had not spoken, was even more intense. He could not help but frown. "Aren't you going to see Chi Che when you come back?" In the past 5 years, he was the only person who had the right to visit the Hopkins Hospital. Although he did not have much contact with Chi Che normally, after 5 years, they had long become familiar with each other. He also knew everything about Su Hee and Chi Che. Now that Su Hee had returned, he felt that he should go see Chi Che. He's already married. Why should I go see him? Su Hee lowered his head in despair. He's not. Han Tianyu really wanted to say that Chi Che was not married at all, not even having a scandal. However, when he thought of Chi Che's despicable and shameless son, he could not help but get angry. Although he wasn't married, he already had a son, so it was even more out of the question. Moreover, Chi Che doted on his son so much that it was out of the question. He could even let a 5-year-old take care of a company as big as Interstellar Union, as if it was a toy. How much did they expect him to cherish their old friendship? It was better if he didn't go to see him, so that he wouldn't be sad. Then the Su family? "Don't mention the Su family to me," Su Hee interrupted impatiently. His voice suddenly became as cold as ice. "I don't know anyone from the Su family. I'm the daughter of Starlight Entertainment's founder, Su Huidong. Su Hee has nothing to do with the Su family." Han Tianyu sighed. The car stopped in front of Juanhao's villa. After seeing the butler open the door, Han Tianyu personally came down to help Su Hee open the car door. "Rest early tonight. I've been quite busy these few days, so I won't be coming back to stay. I'll come over tomorrow morning to pick you up at the office," Han Tianyu instructed carefully. "Going to that woman's house again?" Su Hee rolled his eyes in disdain. If one were to say that Han Tianyu was good at everything, it would be that he was too promiscuous. By Shiueching, a rabbit doesn't eat grass near its nest. I despise you. Su He's expression froze as he watched Han Tianyu's car leave. Although Ah Che's heart was not as painful as before, it was still uncomfortable. Miss, the wind is cold outside. Please go inside and rest. The dedicated butler urged her. Su He nodded. He crossed the hall and went to his room on the second floor. He lay weakly on the soft bed and took out his phone. He did not know if he should call the number he knew by heart. He pressed and deleted it again and again. He did not know how many times he had to do it. It wasn't until the butler outside the second door urged him to have dinner that he made up his mind and pressed Hao Lianfei's number. Su He secretly despised himself. She really didn't have the courage. Whether it was before or now, the only person she could contact was Fei Fei. Hello. Hello, this is Chi Che. A simple and deep man's voice came from the phone. Su He's heart trembled, and he sat up from the bed. He was so flustered that his phone almost fell to the ground. Hello. The low voice was filled with impatience. Su He hung up the phone and felt his heart almost jump out of his chest. Oh my God, how could it be Ah Che? This was clearly Fei Fei's phone. She was so shocked that she was in a daze. It took her a long time to calm down. She quickly jumped down from the bed, turned on the tablet at the head of the bed, and sent an email to Hao Lianfei. Then, she went downstairs to eat. The next day, Su He was dragged out of the bed by Han Tianyu. Ever since Ah Che picked up the phone, she did not sleep well the whole night. She tossed and turned, and it was only until dawn that she fell asleep in a daze. In the end, she was dragged out by Han Tianyu not long after she fell asleep. Seeing that you're in a bad state, why don't you go back and rest? Su He directly gave him a clean eye. They were already at the entrance of the company. Wasn't it too late now? Han Tianyu hurriedly went past the security guards to help her push open the door before saying, My schedule is a little tight. If you have anything to say, look for Anchi. Anchi will take you to the artist's lounge later. Got it. There were more than 200 celebrities of all sizes in Starlight Entertainment. Among them, there was no lack of A-list superstars. In the film and television industry, it had always been Zhang Xiaoxiao and Bai Shiueching vying for the position of number one sister. The two of them had fought for many years before Zhang Xiaoxiao finally lost now. Bai Shiueching was Starlight Entertainment's first sister. Even the lounge was the best. Su He looked at the luxurious lounge and clicked his tongue. As expected, a first sister. And she couldn't help but laugh. She whispered into her ear, Miss, you haven't seen the lounge of First Brother of Galactic Alliance. It's called Luxurious. I heard it's better than our general managers. Is that so? That's right. That's what an international superstar looks like. Moreover, he's a Grammy Award winner. He's so popular that he's turning purple. Our President Han has always been jealous. Su He smiled with interest. Then I want to see it for myself. Don't. NQI quickly stopped him. When CEO Han mentions the Galactic Alliance, he gets even angrier. When he mentions Brother Lei, he gets even angrier. Brother Lei? The legendary entertainment tycoon? Su He raised his eyebrows on the flight back. She had roughly browsed through the information that Han Tianyu had sent her. It mentioned Brother Lei, the CEO of the Galactic Alliance. He could be considered a person who could control the entire entertainment industry. Yes. And she nodded and smiled a little strangely. Our CEO, Han, always wants to kick him whenever he sees him. That's quite hateful. The two of them were chatting when a quarrel suddenly broke out in the lounge. 3 or 4 people who looked like assistants were throwing some cosmetics and clothes out while a 20-something-year-old boy with a mushroom head begged bitterly not to break it. This melodramatic scene made Su He frown. What's going on? And she crossed her arms and said, nonchalantly, This lounge used to belong to Zhang Xiaoxiao. Now that Zhang Xiaoxiao is embroiled in a scandal, it's naturally Bai Shiueching's lounge that has been frozen by the company. Aren't we chasing her away? Secretarian, why are you free to come to the 7th floor today? A strong female voice sounded from behind the two of them. The two of them turned around at the same time. And she said with a fake smile, So it's Sister Yang. I'm here today to especially bring newcomer. As she spoke, she pointed at Su He and introduced him. Su He, a newcomer to the company, Zhang Xiaoxiao special assistant. He. This is Sister Yang, the company's top manager. Many big shots were brought up by her. You have to learn from her in the future. Hello, Sister Yang. Please take care of me in the future. Sui put on the most modest smile and extended a friendly hand to Yang Shi. Yang Shi had a pair of very bright phoenix eyes. At this moment, she crossed her arms across her chest and looked at Su He arrogantly. She looked at her hand that was frozen in the air with disdain. She did not even want to shake hands with her. Special assistant? And she, why is President Han always fooling around? As long as you're prettier, you could be arranged to work at the company. Her tone seemed to be very dissatisfied with Han Tianyu's arrangement. She was even more certain that Su He must have been arranged to work at the company because he seduced Han Tianyu because of his beauty. In her life, she looked down on women who did not have the ability but only knew how to please men. Su He withdrew his hand awkwardly. Looking at Yang Shi's mean face, he almost died from anger. He could finally understand how Han Tianyu felt every time he saw the Galactic Alliance's president. That was because she really wanted to kick Yang Shi now. Remember, you don't have the strength to stay here. You won't be able to stay here for long. Fortunately, you're not my artiste assistant. Su He realized that she was wrong. She shouldn't have kicked him. She should have kicked him again. And she laughed even more strangely. She shrugged her shoulders and almost couldn't hold it in anymore. Forget it. I shouldn't be the one to bother you with these things. Secretarian, you go ahead. I still have a few emergency meetings to attend. After saying that, she nodded and left. Su He heaved a heavy sigh of relief and asked angrily, is she usually this mean? And she shrugged suggestively. Who wants President Han to have a criminal record? Han Tianyu, you bastard. In the end, Su He charged all the debts to Han Tianyu and told Anshi to go back and look for Zhang Xiaoxiao on her own. It took a lot of effort to find Zhang Xiaoxiao's lounge in the corner. Just as he pushed the door open, he was almost hit on the forehead by a powder cake box. Fortunately, she dodged it quickly. Su He's face could not help but sink. Fortunately, she reacted quickly. Otherwise, how would she be able to see anyone tomorrow? The lounge was not big. There were a lot of things littered on the floor. Clothes, cosmetics, shoes, and magazines. It was obvious that it had been a long time since they had cleaned up. A woman with a graceful figure was lying on the sofa. Her flaxen, wavy hair covered her face in a mess, only revealing her sharp chin. The compact box from earlier had been thrown from her hands. Sister Zhang, it's not by Qingshua's people. It's the special assistant that the company sent to you. The mushroom-haired boy looked at Su He apologetically. Zhang Xiaoxiao, who was lying on the sofa, said weakly, do I still need a special assistant now? All the jobs have been canceled, and I can't get any scenes. The company isn't joking with me, right? It was arranged by President Han himself. Zhang Xiaoxiao suddenly sat up from the sofa and looked at Su He with a scrutinizing look. Her curved, willow-like eyebrows were furrowed in confusion. Ever since she was exposed about the dinner party incident, her value had plummeted. How could the company still arrange a special assistant for her at this time? Could it be that the company had not given up on her yet? Zhang Xiaoxiao could not help but laugh at this guess. She politely jumped in front of Su He and gave him a warm hug. Welcome, welcome. I hope we can work together happily in the future. Su He nodded in satisfaction. That was more like it. At least she was worthy of her status as the heir. Actually, when Zhang Xiaoxiao was looking at her, she was also looking at her. It felt more like her than in the photo. Her casual laziness and charm were shockingly similar to her mother's. She was no less than Lung Fei if she were to play Lung Qingge in the movie Legend of the Diva. It would be the most suitable. Actually, this was also the reason why she insisted on being Zhang Xiaoxiao's special assistant. When she heard the driver mention Zhang Xiaoxiao's name in the taxi, she specially went online to check it out. After checking it out, she became even more curious. As expected, she was not disappointed today. Although Legend of the Diva was invested by the Galactic Alliance, she would not be as stingy as Han Tianyu. If it really did not work out, she would invest it herself. However, the script was also a problem. What method should she think of to snatch it from him? The three of them introduced themselves to each other. Su Hee looked at the restroom that was littered with trash with a look of disgust and simply said, "You're fine now. Why don't we go out for a walk? The hygiene here is too poor." Those who didn't know would think that they had entered the garbage collection station. Zhang Xiaoxiao sighed. She had indeed been idling around recently, and even the company was scarce. If it wasn't for the fact that she was unwilling to give up, she wouldn't have come to the company today. She should have gone out for a walk after staying at home all day. When the three of them arrived at the hall on the first floor, Zhang Xiaoxiao looked at by Xueqing's advertisement and was so angry that her teeth were itchy. It used to be her photos everywhere. Before she could finish sighing, she happened to come face to face with Bai Xueqing. The other party's group of more than 10 people came over aggressively. She was just a little kitten. Little Mushroom Head was too honest to begin with. He could tell at a glance that she did not have any intentions. She could not be compared to Bai Xueqing at all. If she had known earlier, she would not have come downstairs. Suhi looked at Bai Xueqing and could not help but nod. As expected of the top sister of the company, she indeed had the air of a queen. Moreover, she lived up to her name. Her skin was as white as snow and crystal clear. She had never seen a person with better skin than Bai Xueqing. She reckoned that all women would be jealous of her. "Senior, why are you free to come to the company today?" Bai Xueqing revealed her most elegant smile, and her tone was very polite. Zhang Xiaoxiao had entered the industry 2 years earlier than her. It was already very respectful for her to address her as senior, but the rest of her words really made people uncomfortable. "Of course, I'm going to the Galactic Alliance to participate in the interview of the legendary diva." After saying that, Zhang Xiaoxiao scolded herself harshly. She was so desperate for face that she had to suffer. Su He also despised her in his heart. This time, it was over. It seemed that she had to bring forward her plan. Bai Xueqing obviously did not believe it. "I just came back from the Galactic Alliance with President Han and have already confirmed that I will be playing the role of Lung Chinga's daughter. Then, we will wait for your good news." Haha. The people behind Bai Xueqing secretly laughed. "You wait." Zhang Xiaoxiao did not want to be outdone and left the house. The three of them came to the parking lot and looked at Zhang Xiaoxiao's dilapidated second-hand Hyundai. Su He's head was full of black lines. They really did not understand how she, the former first sister, had become like this. How did she end up in such a miserable state? "I can't help it. All the advertisements and movie appointments have been parked, so I have to pay a lot of liquidated damages." Zhang Xiaoxiao stammered with an awkward look on her face. "Forget it. Let's just take my car." As she said that, she took out her keys from her handbag and pointed them at the exclusive seat of the company's higher-ups. The door of a diamond blue Bugatti Veyron opened automatically. The two of them were dumbstruck. Zhang Xiaoxiao looked at the car with a puzzled look, then looked at the bag that Su He was casually holding in his hand, and said with a doubtful look on her face, "Who are you? Who are you? Don't tell me you're just a part-time worker." "A part-time worker who can drive a sports car worth more than 10 million and a limited edition Hermes bag worth hundreds of thousands of yuan in your hand like a basket to go to the market to buy groceries?" After all, she was once a big sister. She knew all kinds of luxury brands like the back of her hand. Suhi was also speechless. He looked at the bag in his hand in astonishment. No matter what, he believed that it was worth hundreds of thousands of yuan. She just thought that the style was not bad, the color was not bad, and the texture was not bad. These things were all arranged by Han Tianyu in advance. The villa's cloakroom was filled with things. Who would have thought that it would be so expensive? You didn't know that it was so expensive? Zhang Xiaoxiao was even more surprised than she was. I'm embarrassed to ask about the price even if someone else gave it to me. He cursed Han Tianyu in his heart. This guy did not care about money. Zhang Xiaoxiao smiled ambiguously. CEO Han gave it to me, right? He has always been generous to women. But this time he is so generous. It seems like he really dotes on you. He almost fainted. Another misunderstanding. Did she still want to meet people? The Interstellar Union style of decoration was a little darker than Starlight Entertainment's. It gave people the first impression that its owner was a reserved man. After the two of them consulted at the service desk, Zhang Xiaoxiao was directly brought to the third floor for an interview. Su Hee directly told the service desk about his home and requested to meet the president of Interstellar Union. Miss Su, please come in. The secretary in the president's office made a friendly and polite gesture to invite her in. Su Hee took a few steps forward. Without waiting for the secretary to speak, he pushed open the office door, tidied up his dress, and walked in. Seeing a 5-year-old boy sitting in the back of the office, she couldn't help but be dumbfounded. This Brother Lei was too unreliable. Wasn't he as a big shot in the entertainment industry? How could he allow a child to work? The little boy was pretty and delicate. His cherry blossom-like lips were tightly pursed. He was a little too beautiful, but his beautiful eyes were too sharp and left a deep impression on people. The first thing he noticed was those eyes. At that moment, the little boy was staring at the woman standing in front of the desk with a very impatient expression. He casually tore a blank check from the checkbook in front of him and threw it in front of the woman. He said coldly, "You can fill in this check however you want. Remember, don't ever appear in front of me again." The woman's eyes were red as she took the check and said sadly, "Son?" The little boy glared at her and looked at her with disgust as he interrupted her. "WHO's your son? You don't have the right. Don't forget that you're only pregnant. This is the last blank check. If you're greedy again, don't blame me for being rude." "I'm sorry, Miss Sue. Please leave." Even though she had caused a big trouble, the dutiful secretary still started to chase her away. Breaking into Brother Lei's office without permission was already a big taboo. Brother Lei would definitely not meet her. "I'm here to look for Brother Lei. I definitely won't leave until I find him." Su Hee simply walked past the secretary and swaggered in. The secretary looked troubled. "Linda, go make a cup of coffee." "No juice. Black tea is better." The little boy's sudden order made everyone stunned at the scene. The secretary, Linda, was even more confused. When did Brother Lei become so polite? Could it be that woman was angry? Su Hee raised his eyebrows in satisfaction. Although the little guy had an arrogant face, he had a good upbringing and was very polite. The little boy glared at the eyesore Luo Yin and changed the words that were about to come out of his mouth into, "You can leave now." Luo Yin was a little unwilling. She glared at Su Hee with hatred before leaving angrily. "Please take a seat." Chi Lei's attitude immediately changed 180 degrees. He stood up with a smile and personally invited Su Hee to sit down on the sofa. "May I know if Brother Lei is around?" Su Hee looked around and asked in confusion. A trace of embarrassment flashed across Chi Lei's face. He chuckled and said, "Please don't call me Brother Lei. I'll be embarrassed." At this moment, Linda, who had come in to deliver the black tea, shook her hand. If it wasn't for Su Hee's quick action, she would have definitely splashed both of them. Did Brother Lei take the wrong medicine today, even in front of the big boss? He wasn't so obsequious? Su Hee almost spat out the black tea in his mouth. "Your Brother Lei?" It was really hard to imagine that a delicate little boy would be the entertainment tycoon Brother Lei. It was even harder to imagine that the person that Han Tianyu wanted to kick twice every day would be him. Chi Lei lowered his head shyly and said embarrassedly, "Auntie, don't call me Brother Lei. You could just call me Little Lei." "Little Lei? That's a good name." Su Hee also smiled. This little boy was too cute. His parents probably held him in their hands. Right thinking of this, she sighed lightly. If she could have saved her child back then, she would have been this old. Unfortunately, her life was saved, but she could never be a mother. Chi Lei pouted and asked unhappily, "Auntie, why are you sighing? Is it because you think of unhappy things?" Su Hee shook his head and threw the pain that he had been trying to forget to the back of his mind. Looking at the worried expression on little Lei's face, his heart softened. He unconsciously held her hand and comforted her. "I was thinking that it would be great if I could have a son as cute as you." It was a pity that this was an extravagant hope. She did not have the qualifications to be a mother for the rest of her life. She wondered if Fu Mingyao's child had been born, yet Ache would definitely pamper her in the palm of his hand, right? She had actually returned secretly this time. She did not dare to tell anyone. She had forgotten about the past and the people in the past. She hoped that she could start over. Why was she feeling sad now? Auntie, Chi Lei's chubby little hand waved in front of her, and Su Hehe came back to his senses. Auntie, why don't I be your son? Chi Lei proudly puffed out his small chest, and his eyes were smiling like a cheating cat. If Daddy knew that he was so smart, he would definitely be very happy. Su Hehe laughed. That's great. I can't wait to do that. Yeah, then let's go eat. I'm hungry. Okay, so all the secretaries in the president's office were stunned as they watched their great brother Lei leave hand in hand with Su Hehe, smiling like an idiot. He didn't even bring his special assistant with him. Was it the air of Starlight Entertainment just now? Secretary pushed Linda away with a face full of gossip. Han Tianyu has been claiming to be working for someone else all these years. So it turned out that he was working for her. If he was obedient, wouldn't he be sitting on billions of assets? Without waiting for Linda to answer, Secretary B asked in disbelief, aren't the two of them sworn enemies? How can Brother Lei still smile so? After thinking for a long time, he really could not say the word idiotic out loud. In the end, he could only use his eyes to indicate that he understood. Linda's face tightened, and she scolded the crowd unhappily before returning to her own office. After hesitating for a long time, she didn't know if she should contact the head office. Comparing Brother Lei was too abnormal even if he could make the company flourish. He was still a child, after all. His IQ was 200, but sometimes his thoughts were still childish. Just as Linda was hesitating, the high-class shopping mall next to the Galactic Federation was already in a state of panic. As soon as Chi Lei appeared, someone immediately went up to him and respectfully asked for his instructions. Those who didn't know better would think that it was the Crown Prince. Su Hehe once again verified that little Lei was definitely richer than her. To be able to hand over an entertainment company worth tens of billions to a little brat in charge was truly amazing. This is my daddy's, Chi Lei said indifferently. Su Hehe nodded to show that he understood. The middle-aged man who had been following them all this time was obviously the person in charge of this place. The third and seventh floor of the shopping mall was the specialty food city. The two of them chose an authentic Sichuan restaurant. Looking at the red, spicy oil, Su Hehe felt like drooling. She hadn't known what spicy food felt like for 5 whole years. William could not help but keep a close watch on her. She remembered that there was one time when she could not bear it anymore and secretly asked the nurse to buy a bottle of old godmother chili sauce to hide under the bed at the Chinatown supermarket. However, before she could eat it, it was confiscated by William. Auntie, do you like spicy food very much? Chi Lei asked carefully. Yes, I don't like spicy food. But he could not eat spicy food. Chi Lei suddenly felt like a deflated rubber ball. He could only scream in his heart twice. Finally, he said weakly, Auntie, you can order it. As long as it's what you order, I like to eat it. When Su Hehe and Chi Lei were studying the menu, someone did not even have the mood to eat. Han Tianyu had just reached the table when he was interrupted by Zhang Xiaoxiao's phone call and left the table. Zhang Xiaoxiao, I advise you not to be ungrateful. Han Tianyu's tone was harsh. Anyone who was drinking while being repeatedly urged by others would not be happy. The new special assistant you assigned to me went to the Galactic Alliance with me. Later, she went to look for Brother Lei, but I waited for her for a long time and still did not see her. Do you have her number? For such a trivial matter, Han Tianyu could not help but roar at the phone. A mere special assistant. And you're calling me just like that? Zhang Xiaoxiao. Do you think that the time you've been frozen is too short? I asked you because I saw how much you pampered her. She was just full of grievances. Okay, being ridiculed by someone who used to suck up to her during the interview was already very popular. Since she could not find him and did not have a number, she could only call Han Tianyu for help. If she loses his girlfriend, won't you be finished? Pet. Han Tianyu was so angry that his brain was short-circuited. You said that you lost Su Hehe? Do you want to die? Do you know how to write the word death? Zhang Xiaoxiao quickly took the phone away from her ear. You can't say it so harshly. In your words, she's just a small assistant of mine. Zhang Xiaoxiao, do you know who she is? Han Tianyu asked in a sinister tone. Who is it? The eldest daughter of our Starlight Entertainment. Han Tianyu hung up the phone. Zhang Xiaoxiao's mind went blank from the shock. The mushroom-headed boy pulled her a few times before she could react. Sister Zhang, what's wrong? Your sister Zhang. I have a chance to turn things around this time. Ha ha ha. Zhang Xiao was so ecstatic that she had forgotten her idol image. She dragged the mushroom-headed boy around the entrance of the Galactic Federation as she was photographed by the passing reporters. The mushroom-headed boy was dejected. He even wanted to die. He could already imagine that tomorrow's report would be very exciting. A certain outdated female celebrity was laughing crazily on the street, as if she was mentally ill. In the high-level meeting room of the Chi group, there were no signs of dispersing from the morning meeting until noon. Today was a monthly meeting of senior executives. The directors, senior executives, and regional presidents from all over the world would come back to participate in the meeting. Every detail discussed in the meeting room would be an important decision of the group. The huge amount of capital flow and various investments involved were not to be ignored. Outside the meeting room, there were also more than a dozen male and female urban elites. They were all special assistants brought by the regional managers. During the meeting, they were left outside because the meeting time was unexpectedly too long. This made everyone impatient to continue sitting in the lounge and wait. They simply waited outside, looking at each other. This was what Tang Yi saw when he walked out of the elevator. He shouted unhappily, "Are you bored? Why are you blocking the corridor?" Everyone looked at Tang Yi with disdain. This was the floor reserved for the company's president. The entire company felt honored to have been on this floor. They didn't even dare to speak loudly, but this guy actually ran to the front of the meeting room and howled. It was fine if others didn't know Tang Yi, but Chi Che's secretary did because they had frequent interactions and were very familiar with each other. There were a total of 16 secretaries in the secretary room. At this moment, there were 8 of them gathered here. When they saw Tang Yi coming one by one, they were so happy that they almost burned incense and worshipped Buddha. "Young Master Tang, you're here." Secretary General Gong Lichen pulled Tang Yi to the side and whispered, "Young Master Tang, our president entered the meeting room early in the morning. I reckon everyone inside will be unlucky. Why don't you think of a way?" Tang Yi rolled his eyes. Che was in a bad mood, so why should he be cannon fodder? Although he thought so in his heart, he still said unhappily, "Your president is sick in the head. Don't bother with him. What's the point of having a lousy meeting? I've run so many clubs, but I've never had a meeting like him every day." "All right then." Gong Lichen sighed. It seemed that she had let down her colleagues' request to save their respective leaders. "Go, go, go." Tang Yi pushed the Secretary General forward like he was shooing away a fly. "Go in and tell your president that Su He is back. Tell him to come out quickly. Don't waste time." For the past 5 years, Ache had been risking his life every day, either working as a son or working overtime for meetings. He couldn't stand it anymore. The Chi group now couldn't even be compared to the Fu group back then. He really didn't know why Ache earned so much money. This work doesn't allow it. If I go in, I'll pack up and leave. It's okay. If he doesn't want you, you can work at my place. Gong Lichen glanced at young Master Tang with disdain. "At least I have a double master's degree from an Ivy League university. That's 2. I'm not going." Tang Yi was so angry that he almost vomited blood. What kind of top-notch product did AHCHE invite? He couldn't even get anyone to beg him, yet she actually dared to look down on him? Tang Yi narrowed his eyes dangerously as he sized up the petite woman in front of him. For the first time, he realized that he seemed to have neglected her when he came here usually. "What's her name?" Gong Lichen." "Oh no, young Master Tang wasn't going to deliberately take revenge, right?" Tang Yi revealed a devilish smile. "If you don't go in and inform me, I'll kick the door open. When the time comes, do you think your CEO will teach you a lesson?" Gong Lichen's vision went black, and he almost fainted. He once again regretted that he had spoken too quickly and offended young Master Tang. He did not expect him to be such a petty and vengeful man. "Can I not go? Then I'll go." After saying that, he immediately walked towards the door. Gong Lichen was shocked and grabbed Tang Yi. He said with a sad face, I'll go. I beg you, young Master Tang, please give me this chance to die." Tang Yi held back his laughter and pretended to be indifferent. He stopped and raised his eyebrows at the unwilling Gong Lichen. Go. Why aren't you going? All right. She was going all out today. The atmosphere in the meeting room was solemn. The sky-high price of the meeting table made of Swarovski crystals was enough for 30 people to hold a meeting at the same time. The crystal was so clear that even if someone wanted to do something under the table, they wouldn't have the chance to kick or kick. There was no other way. It was obvious at a glance Tang Yi had once ridiculed Che for being too perverted. Otherwise, why would he set up such a table? There were 18 subsidiaries and 3 listed companies under the Qi Group. One branch was in Hong Kong, one branch was in the United States, and the other was in City A. Its predecessor was the Fu Group. Today, other than the executives from the headquarters, the presidents of the 18 subsidiary companies and the 3 listed companies had also come. Che lazily sat at the head of the table. His ink-black eyes, which were as colorful as a snow mountain, looked at the people sitting there with a chill. He threw a thick book of information in the middle of the table and snorted coldly. You actually have the face to show me this report. I didn't give the Fu Group to you to take care of it, so that you could defeat it. I was determined to get the land in the southern suburbs, and you just showed me this information. Could it be that I only lack a few dollars? I can't even get a piece of land. How much money is that? That's clearly a huge sum of $1 billion. All right, the initial purchase of a piece of land requires $1 billion. I don't know what kind of bottomless pit the later investment will be. Lung Yunfeng's cowardice in not buying it is also due to his prudence. Everyone couldn't help but cast sympathetic gazes at Lung Yunfeng. Everyone was scolded, and it was finally the turn of their old classmates. The huge Fu Corporation was handed over to Lung Yunfeng to be in charge. Although it didn't develop much these few years, at least it didn't decline. Moreover, Fu Jianxing was famous back then and wanted to surpass him. Unless young Master Qi personally appeared, no one else would have been able to do it. In fact, Lung Yunfeng was just unlucky enough to be at the end of the storm. If there was anyone to blame, it was the president of the American company, Chris. It was said that he had messed up a very important matter for young Master Qi, causing young Master Qi to fly into a rage. The others had also suffered an undeserved disaster. Thinking of this, everyone cast their envious and jealous gazes at the president of the Hong Kong-listed company on Che's right. As the only female top executive in the company, young Master Qi wouldn't scold her at any time. Hao Yinfei rubbed her temples in frustration, thinking about whether she should put in a good word for Lung Yunfeng. However, Che was really too abnormal today. Could it be related to He in the past 5 years? The only person who could make Che abnormal was He. Thinking of this, she quickly sneaked a glance at Du Ju behind Che. When she received Du Ju's expression of shaking his head and sighing, her shoulders collapsed. She knew that this would not end today in a moment. She, the CEO of a Hong Kong-listed company, might also be scolded. But what happened to He in the past 5 years? There had been no news of her at all. Engels and William had really protected her too well. They could not get any news at all. They only knew from Chris reports that she had been staying in Hopkins Hospital from time to time now, that Che was acting so abnormally. Could it be that he had been discharged? CEO. An unwilling voice came from the door. Everyone turned around with a face full of surprise and joy to see who had the guts to save them from the abyss of suffering. Gong Liqin did not dare to look at Che's ashen face at all. He cursed in his heart at Tang Yi's 18 generations of ancestors before he said with the determination of a brave warrior, CEO, just now, young Master Tang came to say that Su He is back. He wants you to come out quickly. Wah! The punishment that everyone was looking forward to did not appear instead. It was the table behind Che that fell to the ground because of his sudden action of standing up. It was unknown when his left hand that was holding the pen had loosened. The expensive pen fell heavily onto the crystal table, followed by a crisp sound. Everyone looked at their respected president in astonishment. Abnormal, too abnormal. A trace of wild joy flashed in Che's eyes. He left everyone behind and rushed out in large strides, so fast that no one had time to stop him. President Gu, look at this. Everyone curiously grabbed Gu Youxiang and asked him all sorts of questions. All right, everyone. Today's meeting is over. After Gu Youxiang announced the end of the meeting, he watched everyone leave. He glanced at Hao Lianfei, who had been in a daze the entire time, and shook his head helplessly. Su Hehe had returned. He probably wouldn't be able to calm down in the future. In the president's office, Chi Che glared fiercely at Tang Yi and said in an unfriendly tone, "Why did you only say it now?" At the same time, he fiercely scolded Chris in his heart. This trash. His only mission in the United States was to keep an eye on Hopkins Hospital. In the end, he actually didn't know that he had returned to the country. Tang Yi hurriedly rescued the tie in Chi Che's hand. "I only just got the news." Who knew that Han Tianyu, that fellow, was so cunning? He actually hid it so well. The Su family probably still doesn't know until now. You should feel honored. After all, I told you the news at the first moment. Is that so? Chi Che asked in a sinister manner, scaring Tang Yi so much that he hurriedly jumped 3 steps away. Who knew what this fellow would do when he acted strangely? All right, you can leave now. Chi Che chased him away impatiently. Du Ju, I want all the information regarding He's return to the country to be placed on my desk in 10 minutes. Yes. Du Ju hurriedly left. Before he left, he didn't forget to tease Tang Yi. Young Master Tang, let's go together. Hey, Ache, you can't burn the bridge after crossing the river. I also have a right to pursue He. Drag him away from me. Yes. Du Ju pulled Tang Yi out very easily. Hey, Chi Che, you burned the bridge after crossing the river. If you have the guts, I won't let you off. Until Tang Yi's incessant chatter completely disappeared, Chi Che sat on the chair dejectedly. He stared blankly at his unconscious right hand. The pain in his eyes was almost excruciating. Chi Che, could summon the wind and summon the rain. There was nothing he couldn't get. Only the woman he loved the most, the woman he longed for day and night. For a full 10 years, he thought he was already used to being alone. He thought it was enough as long as he had little Lei. But at this moment, he was just like 10 years ago, impulsive like a young boy. All the blood in his body was clamoring. Su Hehe, just you wait. If you think you still have a chance to continue escaping, then you're too naive. The position of the Chi Corporation's CEO's wife has always been reserved for you. Chi Che wouldn't be as stupid as 5 years ago. Su Hehe, who was eating heartily, could not help but shiver. He had a feeling that someone was scolding her. From the corner of his eye, he happened to see Brother Lei staring at her with a straight face. Do I have flowers on my face? She put down her chopsticks and teased, I don't even have an appetite after being stared at by you. Auntie, you're really very, very beautiful. I like you so much. Why don't you come home with me? Chi Lei cupped his face, and stars appeared in his eyes. It was almost green. Su Hehe could not help but shiver and pretended to be disgusted as he said, You're so good at coaxing girls at such a young age. If you don't learn well, could it be that your father taught you? My daddy would never coax women. It's always women coaxing my daddy. However, it would be great if my daddy really knew how to coax women. Otherwise, I wouldn't have to worry so much. Therefore, at the crucial moment, I have to personally take action. Chi Lei was very proud in his heart. Su Hehe was suddenly very curious about what kind of man could teach such a top-notch son. So you're saying that you're self-taught? Chi Lei rolled his eyes. He didn't have the disdain to coax those annoying women. He was only interested in Mommy. However, his daddy often said that Mommy was timid and he couldn't be too enthusiastic, lest he scared Mommy away. Therefore, Chi Lei, who kept reminding himself not to be too enthusiastic, pulled Su Hehe's hand and said affectionately, Auntie, you're really the most beautiful person I've ever seen. It's just that our company's first elder sister doesn't even have the right to carry your shoes. Linda, who had come with Chi Lei, had been sitting beside the two of them the whole time, listening attentively to their conversation. At this moment, when she heard Chi Lei's words, she spat out the coffee in her mouth and looked at Su Hehe in shock. Was this still the little tyrant Brother Lei? This was clearly Starlight Entertainment's lapdog. Linda suddenly realized, sadly, that the future of the Galactic Alliance was bleak. Even if LEIGE was sold by Su Hehe, he would probably be smiling and helping to count the money. Moreover, he was the type of person who felt that the money was too little. Isn't your first sister Lung Fei Fei? I heard that her social status is very high. This little guy was too good at coaxing people. Su Hee felt that it was fortunate that it was her today. If it was any other woman, she probably wouldn't be able to withstand Lei Ji's passionate attacks. So what? I hate her the most. She wants to be my stepmother. Stepmother? Su Hee felt that he really didn't have the appetite to eat anymore. Look at how much Meng's gossip this little fellow had exposed. Should she let her own media release these explosive news? The title was, "It's Not Easy to Be a Stepmother After the Feud Between Rich and Powerful Families." At the bottom, it was written in small words, "Galactic Alliance, just how many stepmothers do you have?" Su Hee quickly drank a large glass of water. He was completely shocked by his own imagination as expected. The name Lei Ge was not called for nothing. Auntie Hee, why don't you come work for our company in the future? I can give you my position as the CEO. What do you think? Actually, being the CEO is very annoying, but it's also very fun. Puffed. Linda once again spat out a large mouthful of coffee in an undignified manner. She secretly swore in her heart that she would never drink anything when listening to Lei Ji's words in the future. Just now, she was still wondering if Lei Ji would sell her. She did not expect that he would give away the Galactic Alliance so soon. She had never seen such a prodigal child. Su Hee shook his head and refused. She did not want to abduct and sell children. Although children were indeed very cute, she also wanted to abduct and sell them. Actually, I am only interested in the legend of the Heavenly Queen. I want to buy the copyright and script of the legend of the Heavenly Queen from your company. The reason why she rushed back was to personally complete the legend of the Heavenly Queen, therefore. She had to personally check every detail. Chile lowered his eyes and thought for a moment before saying, "We will definitely not sell the legend of the Heavenly Queen. However, we can truly cooperate to complete it. I can completely entrust the responsibility of this movie to you. All the resources of our company, including the funds, are at your disposal. How about it?" Since she felt that the rights were in her hands, she could accept it. "Then I'll let Han Tianyu personally go to your company tomorrow to sign the contract." Han Tianyu. Chile revealed a devilish smile. I reckon Han Tianyu won't dare to come to our Galactic Alliance." Only then did he remember that Han Tianyu was indeed so angry that he gnashed his teeth at the mention of Brother Lei. "You're so cute. He must be out of his mind." So he found a reasonable explanation for Han Tianyu's abnormality. "Andy, you're so nice." Chile was so excited that he ignored the public and threw himself into Sui's arms, acting all cute and unwilling to let go. Isn't that the Galactic Alliance's president, Lei Ge? This place was too close to the two big entertainment companies. Many of the people who came and went were people in the industry. Very quickly, someone with sharp eyes realized that the little boy who had been shamelessly acting cute to cheat the hearts of beautiful women was actually the famous Galactic Alliance's president, Lei Ge. Therefore, everyone went crazy. The reporters held their cameras, and some of the producers, directors, and actors in the industry took out their cameras and took pictures nonstop. Among them, a middle-aged man with a full beard laughed and came forward to tease. "Brother Lei, are you courting a beauty? You have good taste." Chile's face turned red. Although he had been in the entertainment industry since he was young, he was still very clean and self-loving. "Okay?" The middle-aged man reached out his hand to Su Hee and introduced himself. "Hello, I'm the Galactic Alliance's director, Xie Dongming. It's not easy to get our brother Lei's favor." After saying that, he did not forget to wink mockingly. If it wasn't for the full beard on his face, he could barely be considered a flirt. Su Hee quickly extended his hand, but before he could shake hands with Xie Dongming, he was suddenly interrupted by Chile. "Director Xie never washes his hands after going to the toilet. You guys don't have to shake hands." Chile's expression was serious, but in his heart, he kept thinking that he had helped his father defend the integrity of the sovereignty. This son of his was indeed very competent. This time, it was Xie Dongming's turn to turn ashen-faced. He almost jumped in anger. After all, he was a famous director. How could he slander him like this, especially in front of beautiful women? Seeing the three of them chatting so passionately, The gossiping reporter couldn't sit still. Although he was afraid of Lei Ji's ban, his passion for pursuing gossip eventually overcame his fear and surrounded the three of them in the middle. Asking questions, Lei go, "May I ask, what is your relationship with this young lady? The outside world has always heard that you never attend the dinner of female celebrities in private. May I ask what made you personally appear? May I know the name of this young lady? Can you tell me what is your relationship with Lego? May I ask if you are a newly signed member of the Galactic Alliance? May I know if you are the next person that the Galactic Alliance is going to support? May I know your secret to being lucky enough to be chosen by the Galactic Alliance?" Did he mean that there was some unspoken rule? Chile's eyes turned red with anger. With a straight face, he held his head high and said disdainfully, "She is my mommy. If you continue to annoy me, even if I don't teach you a lesson, my daddy will teach you a lesson." In the entertainment industry, only brother Lei dared to threaten reporters in public, and it was a blatant threat. Everyone at the scene was so frightened that their faces turned pale. They put away their cameras and phones one after another. Even Xie Dongming looked at Su Hehe with a strange look in his eyes. The wife of the president of the Qi Group, a socialite from the upper class, had always been competing for the position. For the past 5 years, she had been talked about by all the major entertainment weekly magazines. They were all guessing who would be crowned the queen and become the object of everyone's envy and jealousy. They did not expect that the previous few hot favorites had been kicked out. Even the diva, Lung Fei, was no exception. Instead, it was the unknown woman in front of them who had flown to the top and become a phoenix. Suhi was also shocked. He hurriedly wanted to explain, but he was pulled tightly by Chi Lei. He looked at her pitifully and said softly, "Aunt, please take pity on me. Aunt, please take pity on me. Those who want to be my stepmother are all very bad. If you don't help me, even my biological father will become a stepfather." Su He's heart softened. It turned out that he was a child who did not have a mother at that time. His heart ached as he squatted down and hugged Chi Lei in his arms. He smiled and said, "Son, you have to be good and obedient." "Okay." Chi Che, who was standing outside the crowd, seemed to have been nailed. He stared intently at Su Hehe, who was hugging Chi Lei. His weak right hand trembled slightly. "President." Duju's voice was hoarse. His eyes were sore as he looked at Chi Che's right hand. "Duju, so she still remembers the way home. It's not a waste for little Lei to have waited so long." Chi Che's voice was very soft, as if he was afraid that the moment he spoke, he would scare her. Duju could not help but shake his head. In these 5 years, he had seen everything clearly. The young master had stopped talking to him about Su He ever since he could crawl. His mother was Su He. Su He's kindness, Su He's ruthlessness, Su He's pain. What was originally a person's pain had turned into two people's waiting. He had once deeply despised the CEO for being despicable. He did not expect the young master to be so happy. His feelings for Su Hehe were not any worse than the CEO's. Therefore, at that time, he understood that not only was the CEO here to repay Su Hehe's debt, he was afraid that he would not be able to pay it off. He even took great pains to get one to pay it off together. Su Hehe was being chased by the reporters and was unable to defend himself. His smile was even uglier than his tears. "Brother Lei, you're the president of the Galactic Alliance after all. Why isn't anyone here to deal with this?" Chile curled his lips in disdain. "Auntie, aren't you also the heir of Starlight Entertainment? Why isn't Han Tianyu here to save you?" All right, then she admitted that this brat's brain was indeed very capable. It seemed like she could only call Han Tianyu. "I'm stuck in the restaurant." After the call was connected, he admitted his mistake with a good attitude. Han Tianyu, who was blocked outside the restaurant, looked even worse. He had been here for half an hour. "The restaurant is blocked. We can't even enter from the outside." "Block the restaurant?" Su Hehe asked in disbelief. "Are you kidding me? Who has the right to block the restaurant?" Han Tianyu held his phone and looked at the tall figure standing at the door through the window of the restaurant. He said with a strange tone, "What if it's Chi Che?" Su Hehe was like a cat whose tail was stepped on. He almost threw the phone out of his hand. He turned his head in shock and ran into Chi Che's deep eyes. At that moment, Su Hehe felt as if her heart was not beating. The long-lost pain in her chest overwhelmed her. She thought that she could forget it and face it calmly. But in the end, she was just deceiving herself. She staggered and almost fell. Fortunately, a pair of strong arms carried her horizontally. The originally noisy surroundings fell into a strange silence. Everyone's jaws dropped, and their jaws almost dropped. Is this young Master Chi? The cold and heartless young Master Chi that made people look up to him? Could it be that someone was pretending to be him? Su-hee-hee, a deep, cello-like voice sounded in Su-hee-hee's ears, causing her cheeks to turn red. Even her soft ears were dyed pink. The smile on Chi-Che's lips deepened. He seemed to be very satisfied with Su-hee-hee's performance. He adjusted a comfortable position for her and raised his head to look at everyone. His deep eyes instantly emitted a sharp light, like an eagle's. It had to be said that some people were born leaders. He didn't need to say anything. Just by standing there, his powerful aura could make people tremble in fear. "Everyone, you've disturbed my son and my wife's meal." His tone was filled with dissatisfaction and a trace of ridicule. After the shock just now, Xie Dongming woke up and ran to Chi-Che immediately. He pointed at Su-hee-hee in his arms and said in disbelief, "Is she really your wife? When did you get married?" After that, he didn't forget to roll his eyes. He teased, "I always thought you were an ascetic monk." 5 years ago, Chi-Che said indifferently with a serious expression. Su-hee felt that he had really embarrassed himself to the extreme. It turned out that the godson they had been chatting about was actually Ah-Che's son. She had never seen someone so stupid before. She was so angry that she even wanted to die. "Let go of me." Su-hee finally regained a trace of rationality. He leaned against Chi-Che's ear and said while gritting his teeth, "Darling, how can I bear to let go after not seeing you for 5 years?" No matter how one listened to it, Chi-Che's voice carried a chilling threat. "Your son is already so old now. What else do you want?" Su-hee struggled out of Chi-Che's embrace hysterically. Her eyes were red with anger. "Chi-Che, I hate you. I hope that you will never appear in front of me." Su-hee's words stunned everyone. Even when she pushed him away and rushed out, no one stopped her. Chi-Lei glared at everyone angrily and shouted, "You've made my mommy cry. Is it because there's no news in the entertainment industry recently?" Chi-Lei secretly made up his mind. He was too incompetent as Brother Lei. It seemed that this group of paparazzi didn't put him in their eyes at all. When he went back, he would let these people go home and eat him. "Aren't you going scram?" Thus, everyone dispersed in a hubbub. Chi-Che's eyes were gloomy as he pulled on Chi-Lei's left and right knuckles. Chi-Lei's small face twisted in pain as he said in a low voice, "Daddy, you're hurting me." Only then did Chi-Che let go. His gaze followed Su-hee's back as he said faintly, "I love her so much. How can she be so heartless? I've been spoiled by you." Chi-Lei curled his lips and thought very disapprovingly in his heart. His daddy had always been wise and divine, handsome and unrestrained. Why did he look like an idiot when he met his mommy, who was the one who acted like a lackey just now, wanting to give away the Galactic Alliance for free? Du-Ju stood beside the two of them and felt even more disdain in his heart. He deeply despised this father and son pair. "Daddy, do you think that mommy is unwilling to forgive you because she thinks that I'm a wild child that you gave birth to with another woman?" Chi-Lei blinked his large eyes and asked a question that everyone thought was very idiotic. Du-Ju deeply realized that the young master's 200 IQ was actually fake, who said that there was only one step between a genius and an idiot. The CEO had already poisoned this devilish child into an idiot. See, the CEO was poisoning the young master's young mind again. Chi-Che squatted in front of Chi-Lei and revealed a bloodthirsty smile. "If it was for this reason, I wouldn't have told her. It's best to let her taste the pain I had in the past." "Daddy, aren't you a little cruel? Can you bear to?" The smile on Chi-Che's lips suddenly froze. "So what if I can't bear to? Has she ever empathized?" I don't think so. In any case, she can forget about escaping." Her father was very angry, and the consequences were very serious. In his heart, Chi-Lei felt a wave of sympathy for Su-hee. After Su-hee rushed out of the restaurant, he was stuffed into the car by Han Tianyu, who was waiting there. After getting into the car, she was in a trance until the car suddenly stopped. Only then did she come back to her senses. It turned out that she was home. Get out of the car. Han Tianyu's face was ashen as he opened Su Hehe's door. The two of them silently went to the living room of the villa before Han Tianyu angrily shouted, Su Hehe, you know how dangerous Chi Che is, so why did you still provoke him? Su Hehe was actually also angry, saying that she was already in a bad mood. You're not my guardian, so please don't tell me what to do. In my heart, he's not the CEO of the Chi Group, he's just my Che. This will never change. So that's why you rejected William? You gave him every chance? Han Tianyu ridiculed. You don't understand at all. Su Hehe coldly turned his back to him. All of her love, all of her deep feelings had already been given to Che. Although her heart was still beating, her ability to love had long disappeared along with her original heart, and they died together. She simply did not have the ability to fall in love with a man. She could only pretend that she did not know how good her senior was. It did not matter if she was callous or cruel. She could only do this. Han Tianyu was even more furious. Yes, I do not understand your earth-shattering love. May I ask, Miss Su, have you ever thought about the feelings of others? Have you ever thought about Uncle? Before he died, he taught me to take care of you. I have the responsibility and obligation to tell you what to do. Su Hehe's expression darkened. After a long while, he raised his head and said coldly, Han Tianyu, the way we have been getting along has always been very good. I hope you won't break it. The meaning behind his words was that he had crossed the line. Han Tianyu laughed coldly. Yes, you're the eldest daughter of the Su family. The powerful Su family. I really don't have the qualifications. After saying that, he turned around and left decisively. Han Tianyu had just left when Sui didn't even have the time to be sad when Hao Lianfei rushed over. Yo, isn't it a little condescending for our esteemed lady Su to live in such a small villa? Hao Lianfei had been sizing up and choosing from the moment she entered. She didn't even look at Su He, who was following behind her. Her beautiful eyes were almost spitting fire. Fei Fei, are you angry? Su He quickly lowered his body and personally poured tea for Hao Lianfei. How dare I be angry with you? You've been gone for 5 years. We don't even have the right to look at you. Hao Lianfei took the drink from him and didn't forget to continue mocking him. If she didn't scold He today, it would be difficult to appease her anger for the past 5 years. Fei Fei, I know you're angry. If you're not happy, you can scold me. He lowered his head and said bitterly. Hao Lianfei raised her eyebrows and said resentfully, I'm disappointed. Look at you. I don't even know what to say to you. You know that we all care about you so much. Why has William kept stopping us from seeing you over the past 5 years? In the past 5 years, she had been to the United States, no less than 30 times, however. William had sent people to stop her outside the hospital every single time. Not only her, but even Su Guining, Fu Jianxing, and Qi Qing were no exception. Fortunately, Qi Che had not been to the United States once in the past 5 years. If he had been treated like this, who knew how angry he would be? Fortunately, Qi Che received accurate news that you were safe a year ago. Otherwise, we would have thought that you were dead. 5 years of worry and fear had almost driven her crazy. In the end, this heartless person actually sneaked back to the country and did not even give her a call. Have you ever thought about how we feel? I know that you hate the Su family. You hate Fu Jianxing, and you're unwilling to forgive Qi Che's final ruthlessness toward you. But at least I'm your best friend. Are you going to treat me like this? Hao Lianfei almost choked up at the end of her sentence. Tears kept rolling in her eyes, but she was forced by her not to fall. Fei Fei, I'm sorry. Su He hugged her and explained guiltily, Mother died, but my surgery didn't succeed. For the first 2 years, I was in a deep coma and almost became a vegetable. Although the last 2 people woke up, they were pushed into the operating room several times because of severe organ failure. After that, they stayed in the intensive care unit. If it weren't for the teachers and seniors, I might never have had the chance to come back. When she thought of the countless days and nights of pain and torture over the past 5 years, she still felt her heart palpitate. If it wasn't for her one and only belief, she definitely wouldn't have had the willpower to tide over this difficult situation. Hao Lianfei's heart ached endlessly when she heard this. No matter how much resentment she had, it disappeared completely. He had suffered too much all this time. Every time, he had to face it alone and silently endure it. As her best friend, she really couldn't do anything. Everything is in the past. I'm not angry with you anymore. Chi-Che won't be angry with you either. He just hates you too much. Hao Lianfei's words made Su-He's sadness disappear instantly. He pursed his red lips and said, "Ah-Che hates me? Why?" He never thought that Ah-Che would hate her that day. She could accept that Ah-Che no longer loved her, but she could not accept that Ah-Che hated her. Hao Lianfei smiled bitterly and nodded. Chi-Che does hate you. He has been working day and night for the past 5 years. He simply treats himself as a machine that drinks when he's tired. Every time he gets drunk, do you know his right hand? Su-He's heart shuddered. He asked nervously, "What happened to Ah-Che's right hand?" When he heard the news that your heart was failing and you were already in critical condition, he personally shot his right hand through with a gun. Fresh blood dyed the snow red, but he refused to treat it. In the end, because of the delay, his entire right hand's nerves died and he didn't feel anything. She couldn't finish telling Chi-Che the things that had happened in the past 5 years because she had seen too much. She was angry with He. Two people who were in love should have shared weal and woe together. But he decisively and directly rejected Chi-Che's wishes. She thought that she had concealed everything and endured it alone for Chi-Che's good. But she didn't know that this was actually the cruelest thing for Chi-Che. Thinking of this, Hao Lianfei mustered her courage and spoke the truth that she had always held in her heart. Do you know? Your mother, Annie Qingge, was actually the cruelest and most black-bellied person. She hid the truth for 20 years, causing you to never receive a complete father's love. On the other hand, Mr. Fu spent his entire life regretting not having a child of his own, but he was unscrupulous towards his own daughter. This was extremely cruel to both you and Mr. Fu. 20 years of estrangement and harm was something that no material time could make up for. Her stubbornness made the Su family carry a heavy psychological burden forever. Old Master Su must be feeling extremely guilty, right? Because he was the one who forced his own daughter to die. However, she was also a great person. In order to save you, she didn't hesitate at all, and she didn't even have a trace of sadness. She even paved the way for you. She would rather let her father be sad than let you be sad in the future. Looking at the pale and trembling Su-He, Hao Lianfei sighed lightly and hugged her tightly as she said faintly, Everything is in the past. Can we start over? Don't let your mother's misfortune continue on you, okay?" Su-He suddenly grabbed Hao Lianfei and said anxiously, Fei, I want to see Ah-Che. Can you take me to see him? Can we go see him now?" Hao Lianfei finally revealed a gratified smile and patted her back and nodded. In the president's office of the Chi Group, Chi-Lei sat on the table and shook his short legs in boredom. Chi-Che was frowning and video-chatting with President Chung. "In any case, young Master Chi, you must not let He have too many emotions. To put it bluntly, she's as fragile as a glass person. Without meticulous care, any small problem can make her collapse. That's why William and Professor Engels stopped her from returning to China." Chi-Che rubbed his temples in frustration and nodded. "I understand, but you warned William that it's best not to come to China, or else." Chi-Lei suddenly interrupted from the side. "Beat him until his grandmother doesn't recognize him." President Chung was shocked. "Little fellow, you can't be so violent. I really don't know who you learned it from. Your father and your mother aren't such violent people." Chi-Lei curled his lips and muttered, "Daddy is more violent than me, but she hides it well." President Chung, "Let's chat again when you have time." Chi-Che swiftly canceled the video and lazily leaned back in his chair. He turned around and sized up Chi-Lei with a pair of sharp eyes that carried a trace of scrutiny. "Daddy, don't worry. I'll definitely do my best to keep it a secret. I definitely won't tell Mommy the truth." Chi-Lei blinked his eyes and said mischievously, "I'll definitely help you." Who said Brother Lei was lawless? Every time Chi-Che sized him up with this gaze, he would immediately surrender obediently. "Luo Yan, have you dealt with it?" Chile's expression froze as he grumbled. Daddy, what kind of taste did you have back then? You chose such a scheming woman, and she thought that she could get you just because she clung to me. It's simply a dream. Chiche's left hand rhythmically knocked on the office desk one after another. His eyes were gloomy, and the coldness on his lips was even more terrifying. She deserved it for not being able to resist the temptation of money and power. Daddy, it's like this. I think other than coveting our family's power and money, she wants you more. She probably loves men more. Chiche's handsome face darkened, and he glared fiercely at Chile. I think you deserve a beating. Back then, he had rejected Lung Feifei's self-recommendation and chose Luo Yin because he fancied her innocent identity as a college student. He didn't expect that such a person would be unable to extricate themselves from love once they came into contact with money this time. He absolutely wouldn't allow a second Fu Mengyao to appear. Xiaolei, if you can't handle her well, then let me handle it. Chile lowered his head and said with a solemn expression, no matter what, although she only had a belly, I still owe her a favor. I should give her one last chance. If she doesn't repent, then I'll leave it to you to handle. No matter what, he was very grateful to his father for never treating him like a child. He gave him a lot of freedom, respect, and love, and never hid his background. Luo Yin was detestable and annoying, but she was also pitiful. He would give her one last chance. If she could give up on her improper thoughts toward her father, he didn't mind ensuring that she wouldn't have to worry about food and clothing in her next life. President, the CEO of Hong Kong, Miss Hao Lian, is requesting to see you. The special assistant called through the internal line to ask for instructions. Chiche's eyes lit up, and he quickly replied, invite her in. In the waiting room, Su Hehe had an envious look on his face. Feifei, you're already the CEO now? So amazing. Unlike her, he just wanted to be an idle successor. Hao Lianfei rolled her eyes. It's all thanks to your family's special care. Speaking of this, Hao Lianfei was so angry that she gritted her teeth. The speed of her promotion in the past few years was indeed too fast. Even if she was on a rocket, she wouldn't be able to keep up. She didn't deny that she was indeed capable and was willing to work hard. But why were many people who worked hard lucky enough to favor her in the end? Chiche's relationship with he was the reason why she took good care of him and gave him face. As a result, rumors in the private company spread that she was Chiche's lover. If you hear anything unpleasant in the future, don't take it to heart. It's all nonsense from those people, Hao Lianfei said angrily. Su Hehe shook his head indifferently. Feifei, I won't think too much. Besides, Ache-san is already so old. It's already impossible between us. Hao Lianfei growled in defeat. Suhi, are you stupid? I've never seen a woman more stupid than you. A top-notch man like Chi-Che could not be found even with a lantern in hand. There were countless women coveting him outside, but she was a complete idiot, pushing him away. So what if you have a son? Aren't you not married? What's the big deal if you're married? In fact, she used to be very unhappy about Chi-Che having a son. He didn't manage to save his child, but he suddenly had a son. Later, she saw with her own eyes that he doted on his son to the point of lawlessness and was relieved. Besides, Brother Lei was indeed smart enough to make people like him. Brother Lei is very smart and sensible. I heard that he likes you very much. As long as you get along with him diligently, you'll definitely be very happy. Hao Lianfei persuaded him earnestly. When she thought that he was able to take the initiative to meet Chi-Che, it meant that she forgave him in that case. In the future, they would definitely need a stepmother. It was the wisest to lay a good foundation now. Su Hehe shook his head and refused. I like little Lei, but I definitely won't be a stepmother for others. In this lifetime, not being able to give birth to a child was already her greatest pain. If she had to face the child that her beloved man gave birth to with another woman every day, she would definitely go crazy. I just came over to completely end things with Ache. After all, I left without saying goodbye 5 years ago. After seeing the secretary signal for them to enter, Su Hehe abandoned Hao Lianfei and pushed the door open to enter first. Chi-Che's office was very large and had an excellent view. The bright light shone through the entire glass curtain, making people feel open-minded. Looking down at the busy streets made people feel small but great. Suhihi was secretly shocked. If she guessed correctly, the office should have a swimming pool and a gym. Right, the CEO of Young Master Chi International was indeed not something that a small Starlight Entertainment could compare to. In a commercial center where every inch of land was precious, such a big deal. This understanding also made her deeply realize that the distance between her and Ache was indeed very far. Ache, Chi-Che, who was chatting with Chi-Lei, originally thought that it would be Hao Lianfei who came in, so he didn't take it to heart at all. When he inadvertently saw Su Hihi, who stood foolishly at the entrance and stared at him, he was completely stunned. The dignified young master Chi actually forgot to react. Chi-Lei covered his mouth and secretly laughed. He quietly went out and didn't forget to close the door. He accidentally left a gap and looked at Hao Lianfei, who was waiting outside, and smiled at her. It was a long time before Chi-Che could react. He tried his best to suppress the wild joy in his heart and said in the coldest voice, "Miss Su, what are you here for? Su Gwinning has been looking for you. Do you want me to call him to inform him that you're here? Compared to him, he's now my brother-in-law." Su Gwinning and Chi Ching are married? Yes, they got married 2 years ago. The Su family's old master couldn't wait for you to come back, so he got married early. Chi-Che's voice carried a hint of sarcasm, which made Su Hihi frown slightly. The XU family's matters have nothing to do with me. Therefore, even if she returned to China, she wouldn't attend Su Gwinning and Chi Ching's wedding. Chi-Che's lips curled into a sneer. Suddenly, he stood up and walked step by step in front of Su Hihi until she had no way to retreat. His back was pressed against the wall. "You're really ruthless." Chi-Che's eyes were even darker. With his hands on the wall, he trapped her in his arms in a very ambiguous position. Su Hihi swallowed with difficulty. His mind was in a complete mess. Her unconscious actions were simply the most fatal temptation to Chi-Che. He suddenly lowered his head and eagerly and greedily took her, enjoying her beauty and sweetness. That long-lost passion and desire made him crazily lose his sense of reason that he had always been proud of. His big hand even reached into her collar without hesitation. The sound of her clothes being torn was exceptionally clear in the quiet office. Su Hihi realized that everything was in a mess. Although she was concerned about Ache's hand, she just wanted to pay a visit as an old classmate and an ordinary friend. That was all. However, from the moment Ache approached her, she knew that she couldn't forget him at all. For the past 5 years, she had been longing for him all the time. Sometimes, her body was more honest than her brain. Outside the office, Chi-Lei and Hao Lianfei looked at each other and smiled. They closed the door in satisfaction. Chi-Lei proudly gave them a thumbs up and said sneakily, "Who said that Daddy is the most idiotic lover? He clearly knows that the best way to meet him is to immediately pounce on him." Apparently, the famous brother Lei admired his daddy's hungry behavior and was proud of it. Hao Lianfei crossed her arms and said disapprovingly, "Men are indeed animals that think with their lower bodies. You women always speak up for women." Chi-Lei snorted, "Tell them to get off work early and don't delay Daddy's good work." Hao Lianfei was full of black lines and deeply felt ashamed of Chi-Lei's behavior of squandering. "Do you know how much the Chi group will lose if they don't operate for half a day?" Chi-Lei silently calculated. "About 8 figures, but so what? Who wants Daddy to be happy?" All right, he was really Chi-Che's 24 filial sons his father earned money and his son squandered. It was indeed a scam. The next day, not only did Su Hihi know that Chi-Che's office not only had a gym and a swimming pool, but also had an extremely luxurious presidential suite. Lying on the soft and comfortable big bed, Su Hihi scolded himself countless times. Why did he not have a brain? He clearly wanted to make a clean break. Why did they talk about the bed before they even had a few words? Su Hihi deeply felt embarrassed for herself. She must have seen that the handsome man could not resist the temptation of a man, so she made a mistake. The sound of running water came from the bathroom, and her face turned even redder. She felt that she was becoming more and more idiotic as she lived. She might as well bury her head in the quilt and suffocate herself to death. Aren't you afraid of suffocation? Chi-Che's teasing voice sounded above her head. Su-Hee simply wrapped himself in a quilt and resolutely carried out his cowardly behavior to the end. I thought you were already very tired, so I temporarily let you go. It seems that you have a lot of energy. Why don't we continue? It's good to have sex early in the morning. There was an obvious smile in his voice. He had already restrained himself very much last night, however. He still greedily wanted her again and again. If it wasn't because he was really worried that her body wouldn't be able to take it, he didn't plan to continue being an ascetic monk. No, Su-Hee was so scared that he lifted the blanket and almost jumped up. In the end, he just happened to fall into Chi-Che's naked embrace. That firm and perfectly shaped chest made Su-Hee's face burn red. It seemed like the gym wasn't just for decoration. A smile flashed across Chi-Che's eyes. It was so fast that no one could catch it. Then, he hugged her slender waist tightly and locked her in his embrace. He said with a straight face, "You abandoned me back then. Don't think that I'll forgive you just because you came back to sell your beauty. It's not that simple." Su-Hee almost choked on his own saliva. What did you say? You abandoned me time and time again. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I really couldn't forgive you for leaving without saying goodbye. A trace of suppressed pain flashed across Chi-Che's eyes. Su-Hee's heart ached. Che isn't like this. It really isn't like this. I'm doing this for your own good. You're doing this for my own good? How do you know this is what I want? You're underestimating me. Chi-Che, I'd rather you die in my arms than see you run away again and again. If Chi-Che was just teasing him just now. Now, he was truly furious. All these years, he had indeed loved and hated He. If it wasn't for Chi-Ching's sudden intrusion, he simply didn't dare to imagine that he would end up like Fu Jianxing. Fortunately, they had spent 10 years together instead of the 20 years that Fu Jianxing and Lung Qingge had spent together. Fortunately, he had finally returned safely and not the death of Lung Qingge and Fu Jianxing. Therefore, he had been suffering from insomnia for the past 5 years. He could not fall asleep even with sleeping pills. He was afraid that he would become a second Fu Jianxing when he woke up. Even if he had to pay any price, he would not be able to get a heartbeat and a smile from the woman he loved. I'm sorry, Che. I was too self-righteous, she quickly apologized. I won't forgive you easily, a certain man said, while shamelessly taking advantage of her. Su-Hee's eyes lit up. If he wouldn't forgive her easily, did that mean he would still forgive her? Then what do you want to do? His voice softened again. That depends on your next performance. If I'm satisfied, I can consider it. A certain man revealed a smile of success. A certain idiotic woman, who was completely unaware of the trap, hurriedly nodded. Obediently sleep for a while. I'll call you for breakfast later. Chi-Che gently planted a kiss on her forehead and turned around to change his clothes. Su-Hee gently touched his forehead. A trace of confusion flashed through his eyes. Did she and Che reconcile? Just like that, that's not right. She was not here to make peace. Su-Hee's eyes instantly became clear. Moreover, even if she still loved Che deeply, she could not accept the fact that Che had even given birth to a child with another woman. Especially after she saw Che's love for Brother Lei. It made her think of love for the house and the crow. Her heart felt sour and uncomfortable. From Feifei's point of view, Che was waiting for her, but he should not have given birth to a son and waited together. Please forgive her narrow-mindedness for not being able to accept it. Thinking of his original purpose for coming here, Su-Hee jumped up from the bed. It's over. If Han Tianyu knew that she didn't return all night, he would be furious to death. He had caused such a huge mess yesterday, and he still didn't know how to end it. Before he could lament about not getting enough sleep, Su-Hee quickly rushed into the bathroom to freshen up. After hurriedly changing his clothes, he carefully pushed open the door and carefully observed the entire corridor. After that, he stealthily left. Outside the CEO's office, Chi-Che was smiling triumphantly, startling a bunch of employees. Duju had a hard time holding back his laughter. CEO, please keep a low profile. Chi-Che's smile became even more charming. The two dimples on his handsome face were emitting an irresistible fatal temptation. He walked towards a group of people opposite him. Instantly, everyone was stunned and stupefied. Only when the two of them walked far away did people come back to their senses and repeatedly exclaim in surprise, "Oh my God, is that our cold-faced CEO? His smile is simply charming to death. There's actually a shallow dimple. Why didn't I notice it before? It would be strange if I never saw it before." There was even someone who sighed with a regretful tone. No wonder the CEO doesn't have many friends. It turns out he's too handsome. Listening to the endless praises at the end, Duju couldn't help but tease, "CEO, I reckon that the work efficiency of the company today won't be high. The beautiful women are all busy being infatuated. Then they can pack up and leave." The minimum recruitment requirement for the QI group was a master's degree from a famous university. Many of those who could enter this place were from overseas. Their own abilities and qualities couldn't be underestimated. Seeing Chi-Che showing signs of anger, Duju quickly changed the topic. "Young master, Sue has been waiting for you for half an hour. I wonder what business he has with you this time." Chi-Che's footsteps suddenly stopped in front of reception room number 1. He turned his head and said to Duju, "Other than he, I can't think of anything that requires young Master Sue to personally pay a visit. He doesn't even give others the chance to reject him." Duju's head was full of black lines. Chi-Ching was pregnant and waiting for delivery at home. Every day, he would think of ways to torture Su Guining to death. The only person who could make him take the time out of his busy schedule was Su He. Pushing the door open, Su Guining was wearing a pair of shorts and a t-shirt. The two of them were stunned. The Prince Charming who was so popular was actually tortured into a sloppy uncle. Tang Yi sat furthest away from Su Guining with a look of disgust on his face. He looked like he was trying his best to distance himself from Su Guining. Ahem. Chi-Che cleared his throat and asked unnaturally, "You came to my company wearing this outfit?" Su Guining nodded indifferently. Did he, young Master Su, need a suit to raise his status? Indeed, he didn't need it. Who had ever seen someone who drove a limited edition sports car worth 10 million and was so poor that he couldn't afford to buy clothes? Pass the message down. Fire the security department on duty today. In the future, anyone who lets in such a person who damages the company's image will be fired. Chi-Che was furious and ordered Duju. It was hard to imagine that there would be people casually entering and leaving the Chi International's headquarters. Su Guining was shameless, and he, Chi-Che, couldn't afford to lose face. Duju left with a stifled smile. "You brat, do you want a beating?" Su Guining narrowed his eyes threateningly, secretly regretting that he didn't teach this brat a lesson in the past. Now that he had become his brother-in-law, it was even more difficult to make a move on him. If he did anything to his brother-in-law, his wife would be the first to not let him off. "Are you asking for a beating? All right, I'm not going to talk nonsense with you. Where's he? Have you reconciled?" Chi-Che shook his head. Although he had a good start, he was more clear-headed than anyone else. Su Guining stood up and said seriously, "She's the eldest daughter of our Su family." When Su was the eldest daughter of our Su family, with grandfather personally supporting her, no one would dare to say no, even if she ran amok in the capital. Regardless of whether she recognizes our Su family or not, our Su family will definitely recognize her. This is what my grandfather wants me to tell your Chi family and all the aristocratic families in the capital. Whoever dares to embarrass her is making an enemy out of the entire Su family. Su Guining's words were like a bombshell. Even Tang Yi, who was dozing off, instantly jumped up. He knew that the Su family would definitely support Su He in secret, but he didn't expect the Su family's attitude to be so firm. They actually said such harsh words at the first moment, not even sparing the in-laws. Chi-Che's handsome face was filled with frost. "I understand Grandfather Su's intentions. There's no need for you to warn me. I know what I should do." Wasn't it too late for the Su family to express their concern now? Su Guining sighed. It seemed like his brother-in-law was blaming his grandfather for being cold back then. If he had known earlier, he wouldn't have let his brother-in-law know that he once knelt in front of his grandfather and asked for help. Actually, his brother-in-law wasn't too angry. Even he himself was quite angry. If he had known that he was his aunt's daughter back then, He would have done everything he could to help. Otherwise, he wouldn't have made his aunt make such a decisive decision. However, they had also seen grandfather's guilt and sadness all these years. He was even more worried about his grandfather's health, so it wasn't appropriate for him to say anything he didn't like. Su Guining patted Chi-Che's shoulder and said earnestly, "Hee hee." Grandfather heard that Hee Hee came back, but he didn't plan to visit him at all. His emotions fluctuated greatly, and I rushed back to see him. He will have to rely on you. No matter what, she is my Su Guining's only sister. Su Guining came and left in a hurry. Apart from having a pregnant wife torturing him at home, the old man also didn't stop. He wished he could be busy as two people by himself. President, Miss Su has left. Du Ju walked in dejectedly. Tang Yi immediately gloated. He deserved it. Who asked him to burn the bridge after crossing the river? I understand. Chi-Che closed his eyes solemnly. His thick eyelashes cast a shadow under the light. Su Hee Hee, you're too cowardly if you only know how to escape. Since you've already broken out of your cocoon and transformed into a butterfly, he will look forward to it and accompany you to the end. He has a lot of patience. He has waited for 10 years. Does he still care about this little bit of time? He just hoped that next time, he wouldn't be in a hurry to escape from his bed. Ask Gong Lichin to help me ask her sister out for dinner tonight. Chi-Che opened his eyes, and a trace of calculation flashed through his eyes. The eldest daughter of the Gong family? Du Ju was taken aback before nodding. The Gong family could also be considered as a prominent figure in the upper-class society. Gong Lichin was an illegitimate daughter and couldn't obtain the right to inherit the family. However, her sister, who could do whatever she wanted, was indeed doted on by thousands of people and was well known among the socialites in the capital. However, everyone in the circle knew that she was infatuated with young Master Qi. Help me reply to the charity banquet on the 10th and tell them that I will really attend it. Du Ju's expression was even more stunned. Didn't the president order him to reject it when he just left the office? Although he was puzzled, Du Ju quickly replied, I will go and do it right now. When Sui took a taxi and rushed to Starlight Entertainment, Zhang Xiaoxiao was driving her sports car through the city. The moment she stopped in front of the door, she immediately attracted a lot of attention. Sui did not know whether to laugh or cry. Zhang Xiaoxiao really did not give up any chance to be in the limelight. Hee hee, you're here. Zhang Xiaoxiao pounced in front of Su He and said happily, do you know? Early this morning, all the media reporters surrounded the Galactic Alliance. All of them were asking questions about who Brother Lei's biological mother was. CEO Han was so angry that he almost died. The corners of Su He's mouth twitched unnaturally. It must have been caused by yesterday's misunderstanding. He hoped that little Lei could solve the problem as soon as possible. But why would Han Tianyu be angry? Su He was confused. Zhang Xiaoxiao glanced at her, as if she was looking at an idiot, secretly wondering how she had become the heir. She was really unqualified. Today is the day our company's first brother releases his new album. The company planned to release for a long time, but I didn't expect the Galactic Alliance to be so despicable, stealing all the headlines in one go. Only then did Su He come to a realization. So this was the legendary stealing of headlines. Has this happened often in the past? Zhang Xiaoxiao clicked her tongue. More than that. Starlight Entertainment and the Galactic Alliance had never stopped fighting. The annual charity dinner on the 10th was not only attended by wealthy businessmen and celebrities, but it was also the best time for female celebrities to compete in scheming, and scheming, unfortunately, I won't have the chance to attend. Do you want to go? Zhang Xiaoxiao hurriedly nodded. Of course, she wanted to go very much, but she knew that she didn't have the chance. Not to mention her current scandal. Even when she was popular in the past, she didn't have the chance to attend. When the time comes, I'll ask Anshi to send you an invitation. Hee hee. Thank you so much. You're really a blessing to me. Stop flattering me. Come with me to Han Tianyu's office later. We'll talk about your comeback.